Okay. Hi, everyone. We're so happy to kick off today's agenda with a conversation around purpose and trust. I think everybody knows Savvy Ladies does do a survey every year. We know that women are more than capable decision makers, right? But the study did show that many women, 56% of the women that participated in the study, do feel that level of uncertainty around not just financial decisions, but life decisions as well. And so what I'd like to do today is talk about how we break through that, right, through purpose and trust. And we're going to dip into the expertise and stories of each of these leaders to maybe pull out some tips, tricks, tools that you can take away with you and really apply in your relationships with clients. So I'd like for maybe we start, I think mostly everybody knows folks here on the panel, but maybe a quick introduction, name, company, where you're located, your favorite part about being a part of Savvy Ladies.
I'm not Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Jaffe. I have my own independent RIA called OFC Wealth Management. It stands for Order from Chaos, which, kind of fun. And I'm located in Short Hills, New Jersey. And was that it? What do I love about Savvy Ladies is that it allows me to use all of these tools that we work so hard on gathering throughout our careers and really make a difference in someone's life. And you can honestly turn it on and off when you've got the time, bring on some more. When you need to take a step back, it's a really fantastic experience.
Abby?
Abby Salome. I'm a managing partner at Mercer Advisors. And I was introduced to Savvy Ladies many years ago through a very good friend of mine who's been on the board for probably close to a decade now. And my involvement has been in and out depending upon where I've been in my life and career. And I can just say that for me, one of the most purposeful things we can do is give back to others. It's a servant heart that I think makes being here so worthwhile. And to the extent that I can help amplify this mission and my involvement in Invest in Others, which definitely does that too. I'm just grateful to be here and to be able to serve all of you. And there's nothing I love more than seeing a passionate group of women supporting one another in a room. So cheers to that.
Amanda Connaughton. I'm a certified financial planner with a small independent firm out in Louisville, Kentucky. And I love everything about Savvy Ladies, but I think my favorite part is that we're able to reach women that we might not have ever been able to connect with or reach before. And I just love the idea that these little tidbits of financial education and empowerment that we can share with these women then trickles out into the rest of their lives. Maybe that affects their family members, their friends. And so I just love the idea that we can spread financial education and it can continue to reach their circles and grow from there.
Jordan?
Yeah, and I'm Jordan Tobias, manager of grants and programs at the Foundation for Financial Planning, and Savvy Ladies is a long-time grantee of ours. And sort of like Amanda, I love Savvy Ladies because they're not just lip service. They really put their boots to the ground, and they're serving all women who have been historically excluded from our financial systems. And as a Black woman, I must support that. So yeah, so I love Savvy Ladies.
Okay. All right. Now we could probably sit up here all day, but I know in respect of the agenda, there is a time limit. Judy, can you tell me what time, until what time we have so I can kind of monitor?
Give us the hook.
Yeah, give us the hook.
Good until about 1:30.
Oh, that's
Plenty of time for questions too.
I can never ask that like at Impact Conference.
No.
So but no. Okay, so the first question actually I'm going to tee up to each of our speakers, and then I'm going to kind of dive in deeper to each of their experiences and have specific questions for each of them. So I'd like to just go down the panel here, and the question I have for you is, okay, so when it comes to building trust today, how do you show up in conversations with your clients, your community, et cetera?
So when it comes to building trust, right, you have to be a good listener, right? And you have to come from a place of confidence, right? So you need, which is kind of what we're talking about, right? But like, so what Savvy Ladies allows you to do, right? So sorry, I thought I'll just kind of hop around a little bit, whatever. So I'm a career changer, right? So I came from the Wall Street universe, and like others, lots of others, who find themselves in this profession. And when that happens, right, you kind of grow up in this investment banking, male dominated, bro universe of, no offense.
The bro club.
The fact that you're in this room, we know, and you're not offended. So, and so like you learn how to, like, you're navigating these waters, right? And so then to change careers later on in life, and then just like start from no experience is scary, right? And there's that whole like imposter syndrome thing that we all kind of deal with. But this is a whole new world. This is not investment banking, right? This is so. How do you let someone feel like, yes, you have the answer, you can help them, right? And instill that when you're kind of just navigating it yourself, right? So when I started, getting, when I got my CFP and whatever, you're kind of tiptoeing into the, when you're navigating those waters, and Savvy Ladies like gives you this, or volunteering in general, right? Like gives you this opportunity to like be exposed to more people, right? Help more people. And then you see that like, oh yeah, like not everyone knows that credit cards are not great, right? Like, or, but like the conversations that never were had when we were little. And so that's allowed me to kind of just be a better advisor, right? To come at it from a place of confidence, and also every story matters, every expression matters. Like listening truly to what's going on at the other end is everything when you're helping someone go through and navigate through a financial hardship and what have you.
Listening. Abby.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting because I really did think about this, and trust is something earned over time. And I think that in order for somebody or a group of people to trust you, it's about consistency in how you show up, right? So it's repeatable consistency in how you show up. And then even when it's not convenient, right? So if you're talking about wanting to help somebody, it may not be convenient for you to do so at that time, but when you're called to help somebody, the inconvenience is not an inconvenience because it's what you want to do, it's how you want to make an impact. So I think for those of you who have been volunteering, even when it's not convenient for you to do so, because we all have families and we all have lives and we all have work and we have our own bills to pay and our own chaos to put in order, or maybe that's just my life. It's not always convenient, but it's really how you show up for people in your life in every capacity, whether it's family, whether it's work, whether it's your friends, or whether it's somebody that you're volunteering to help. And I think that's how you establish trust.
Showing up. I love that. Amanda, how do you establish trust?
Yeah, I would say it can be difficult to build trust, and it takes time, kind of like you all had mentioned. But I try to just open a space for that person, for that client on the helpline, that person I'm speaking with, give them the floor, know that I'm actively listening. I'm here to support them, to help them, because if they don't feel like I'm listening, they don't feel like they can let their guard down, it's hard for us to effectively help them, and so I think just giving them that platform to say, hey, I'm non-judgmental space. I'm listening to you. I'm here to support you. Tell me your story, and then we're on the same team. We can work towards what you're trying to accomplish together.
Yeah. And so my answer is going to be a little different since I'm not a financial planner, but for background, again, I work at the Foundation for Financial Planning, and we provide grants to nonprofits to create pro bono financial planning programs across the country. And we also provide CFP professionals, so certified financial planners, to volunteer their time at the nonprofit. And a big part of my job is nonprofit outreach. So I'm like spreading the word about the service and creating pro bono financial planning programs. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started in 2023, I was so excited because I'm like, who wouldn't want to take advantage of this service? It's free for the clients, the nonprofits. Like, I'm going to create hundreds of pro bono programs. But then I quickly learned that people often delay seeking financial help, right? Not because they don't care about their finances, because they feel as though the service is not truly for them. And this is especially true in Black and Brown communities when trust carries a historical weight, a major historical weight that includes racism, exclusionary practices, and then once you're included, predatory lending. Then you get in the room and there's not a lot of people that look like you or people that understand your experiences. So, and then beyond that, a lot of people feel as though they'll be like judged and they're feeling overwhelmed and they're ashamed. As we know, a lot of Americans can't put together $1,000 for an emergency fund. So they're worried that they'll be judged. So the first thing that we found is that a lot of people don't necessarily need information when they first get into the room or virtually with their advisor. They're seeking or they need psychological safety. They need a space where they feel like seen, heard, supported without being judged, right? And so we recommend showing up as an ally first and not just an expert. And there are a few ways that that can be done. So if you see your client's numbers and it's not ideal, leave all your assumptions about them at the door, right? So while that like little Zoom circle is loading, leave the assumptions behind and like really get to know your client genuinely. Hear their name, their stories, their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then validate their intelligence and their life experience. I'm pretty sure 100% of Savvy Ladies clients have accomplished something big, whether it's going to school, having children, raising a family, or escaping a domestic violence situation and divorcing and surviving now. And I'm sorry, I'm a little long-winded. I am a child of a Baptist preacher, but validating the experience, and that shows like, you know, they're capable. They've been capable to achieve many things in their life, and they can bring that capability into their finances, right? And so that brings a level of empowerment. And then last thing, validating the fact that they showed up to a meeting. Okay, when you see that your clients have experienced a level of financial trauma, especially in childhood, and shame, you want to show or acknowledge that they showed up to that meeting, because it shows like one, there's no like victim mindset, and there's a mindset of being an overcomer, and that this is just like the first step to them overcoming. And I think those are like big ways to establish trust. So.
I love that though, because you're actually presenting ideas from the other side of the table, right? From a client's perspective, right? And I would say, of all the things that that was shared from a client's perspective, the listening, but also being heard and showing how you're actually hearing what I'm sharing, how you're actually listening. Maybe that's telling your own story. The vulnerability is great. If I know that you come from the same place as me, wonderful. We can have hours of conversation about how we grew up, right? So I love that. So let's dig in a little deeper into each of your experiences. And Abby, I'd love to start with you. And in your experience in the industry, what are you seeing? How do you see volunteering really helping to establish an advisor's credibility and the trust the client has with them?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think for a financial advisor who is volunteering, especially in this capacity, it's not just lip service. Somebody used that word earlier. I don't remember who, but it's true, you know. So when you walk the walk and talk the talk, there's a certain authenticity that you carry with you that is really hard to fake. You know, like you'd have to be a really good actress or actor to be able to fake authenticity as it relates to wanting to serve others. So I think as it relates to either growing your business or serving your existing clients, doing volunteer work is just creating another level of authenticity, and the impact of what you're doing and the stories of those that you're helping. I mean, with Invest in Others, I listen to all of these impact stories for all of the amazing advisors who have created these incredible nonprofit organizations that go out and do such good work to help those in need. And you carry that with you. And I think it's something that just creates another level of relatability that you don't get if you're not putting yourself in a position to give back. I think it also just makes you so grateful. Like we should be all so grateful for what we have. Like I know we've probably all come across hard times in our lives. I'm no exception. And to have people around you that actually care about what you're going through, you know, it's rewarding in a way that money could never buy. You know, so it shows that you're not just there for the monetary purpose. You're there because you believe in the mission of what you're doing.
And kind of an extension of that, the mission of what you're doing, the ability to actually live out that mission at a firm that you're a part of, right?
Totally.
If you're not a solo advisor. So I'm curious, how do you think, what separates firms that really embed purpose into their culture versus firms that maybe have it more on the periphery?
That's a great question. And what's interesting is that when I thought about where I wanted to be and the people I wanted to work with and the firm that I wanted to be a part of, there had to be alignment in our missions and in how we serve other people and the way that we treat each other too. So, you know, like you, and like Robin over there, because we spoke about this earlier, I've been in this industry of financial services for a lot of years, and I have not always been accepted in very toxic cultures. I have not always been desire to be at a seat in the table, you know, at the table in a room. And I've had to build a lot of very thick skin around me. So I knew that for this last and best chapter of my career, I wanted to make sure that the people I was surrounding myself with were like-minded in how they treat not only clients, but one another, and really were responsible for lifting everybody up. And I think when purpose and mission are aligned and ingrained in the culture, all of that negativity, all of that toxicity, all of that jealousy, protectivism, whatever else we've experienced in the past goes away, and you're able to show up in a way where you can do the best work of your entire career. And Mercer Advisors, and this is not a promo for us, but it's true. There is just this natural ability to lock arms and want to do something better than what's been done in the past, with a fiduciary mindset, lack of conflicts, and really everything is about how we deliver on our promises to our clients and to one another. That is it, you know. So I think that it's important to have your mission and your purpose really from the top of the organization down to the bottom, completely and consistently be reiterated, and, you know, through activities and showing other people that's how you, and people that are not like-minded are weeded out pretty quickly.
Please jump in, yeah.
So I love what you just shared. For those of you that are not at a firm the size of Mercer, right, which has billions and, 200 million, like, woohoo, thank you. But for those of us that are navigating a different path, and it's hard to find, the wirehouse, the aggregator, like where can I go where my values will align? And this is a different kind of plug, but I'm really involved with NAPFA, the National Association for Personal Financial Advisors. Whenever I'm at a NAPFA thing, I talk savvy ladies all day long. So I'm going to do the reverse. But to be a NAPFA registered advisor, you have to be truly conflict free. You have to be a true fee only as part of that, a true fiduciary. So no commissions, no kickbacks, no selling insurance, we'll bring the insurance professionals in, right? So if you have this calling, because it really is, like if you are answering that call because you're doing this work because it's the good work and you have, you want to serve others and you're in a situation where you might not like where you are professionally, that is a great place to go to find other like-minded people if you're not at a firm that already has those values in place. And, that has been the greatest gift that I've had in terms of being able to find a culture right out of the gate that, and peers, right? And met Stacy through there and it's anyway. So I would just say that you can find it your way in a different way.
I love that because you said something, Abby, finding at this point in your career a firm that really aligns with
And
your
I've
purpose.
seen it all.
Yes, right. But oftentimes for women, it isn't until it's later in our career that we're really like, we need to align.
It was
Yes,
more
like, I need to
important to
align my
me
purpose. Yeah,
than how much money I was gonna make.
Yes.
It was more important to me,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. So I love that you bring up NAPFA, Savvy Ladies as well, because these are other channels in which you can align to a purpose, right? While perhaps you're still figuring out at your firm, if you're at a firm, if purposes align. So I'd like to kind of dip in a little bit more into your experience, Emily. So you work with many, many Savvy Lady clients. So I'd love to hear about your process. We talked about trust, but your process to get your clients comfortable talking about money in ways that maybe they feel guilty about or they're embarrassed about. How do you get them to truly open up?
So the cool thing about working as part of Savvy Ladies is that there's no difference when you're on the phone, when you're Zooming with a Savvy Ladies client versus my own with a prospect call. It's really I start every call the same, tell me how I can help. What's going on? And I feel like the commitment to that has made all the difference in my professional life and my volunteerism, because you are just saying this is your time. I'm all yours. Talk to me. And so that process is the same. And what I love also, some of the women I've met through Savvy Ladies, and I chose to get involved a few years ago when I decided to become a CDFA and really pivot my practice in terms of serving, divorcing women who, women in general, we didn't talk about this stuff around the dinner table, right? But to add in the complication of divorcing, and it's your lawyer you don't feel is talking to you. You don't know where to go, and it's the biggest negotiation of your life. So when I started to take that on, and I started kind of narrowing in on that, subset of Savvy Ladies on the helpline, it really just kind of amped up my, my skill set, really. I mean, in terms of being able to kind of, everyone feels embarrassed, right? No one feels good about what's going on. It's a place of vulnerability, no matter how much money you have, right? It's oh, I should have been paid more attention. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. And it's just hold the, stop. This is not a place for that. You made this call. You're here. like, let's take it from there. And like, that's just the way I approach everything.
I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm
Go
not gonna
ahead.
put you on the spot.
Go ahead.
Is there a specific story you can share where you helped a client move from like hesitation to taking action?
So I mean, there's a couple. I mean, one was a divorce and one was not. The one where it was a couple where they were just lost, right? They had two kids that, you know, had some needs that they were trying really hard to meet, and it was leaving them dry. And, you know, it was, you know, just to be able to throw out, you know, and take from my own personal experience, right? Like I served on my school board, you know, I know how to work the system in that kind of regard. So I'm giving suggestions and saying like, you can negotiate with the private school, you can, you know, and all of that. And now, you know, those kids are thriving and they've made it through this, and we stay in touch, right? Like, so that's one of the greatest parts about doing this work, right? It's like you welcome these people and you help them, and then they don't want to leave you, and
They
it's
become like family.
yeah, because you're rooting for them so hard, and they're like, I did this. You know, another one was a client of mine who was divorcing, and she didn't have the money, right, to pay for the legal representation that she really needed, and so she was able to get a CDFA, right? Like, how cool, you know, and really be able to navigate that. And she kept me posted on her negotiations, her process, and now, you know, is doing her thing and knew how to enter those negotiations from a place of more power. And that is
knowledge.
right, which is this, you know, knowledge is power.
Good. Amanda, I'd love to transition to you. You also work with many Savvy Ladies clients. I'm curious as to what are maybe some of the patterns or trends that you see when clients are reaching out through the helpline or to you directly?
One major pattern that I notice with a lot of women on the helpline clients I speak to is just negative self-talk, which I hate, but that, oh, I should have reached out sooner. I'm so embarrassed. I made this mistake in the past, or I did this, or look at this mess behind me, or, you know, just any number of things of here's what I've done and it feels unfixable. And I think we've kind of talked about this a little bit on the panel today, but just encouraging them that they made a really hard first step in calling out to the helpline, in making that first appointment, showing up for that appointment. You know, maybe we can't change the past, but we can plan for a future together and we can work towards that. So that's one of the patterns. But another pattern that's more encouraging is that the women that I speak to are so motivated to make changes. You know, I speak to these women that are so driven to say, hey, I want to do better. I want to achieve these goals. I want a different lifestyle. I just don't know how to get there. And so, you know, I can't instill that drive in people. I can give them the tools and the resources and the education, but that, you know, natural drive and motivation is wonderful because those things partner together is how really they reach their goals.
I'm curious, is there something that you do to help your clients quickly kind of overcome that sense of fear they initially have during the call, or that feeling of being overwhelmed? And how do you tap into that motivation that you describe so that they do take action and they do start to turn the corner and not give in to the fear?
Yeah, I try really hard to remind clients that they're not alone. You know, we've worked with hundreds of different clients, seen just about every experience, situation. And so even just pulling in some stories of, hey, here's a woman that was in a similar situation. Here's a family. Here's, you know, somebody that had mounting credit card debt and felt like they couldn't get out from under it. And here's where they're at now. Because I feel like a lot of times those clients don't see a way out. They're like, I'm never going to be able to do this. But if you can give them those little tidbits of, hey, here's some success stories and you can be a part of that. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like that helps slowly reduce a little bit of that fear and gives them that encouragement of, okay, maybe I can do this. It's happened before and you've seen it.
Yeah. I'm curious though, because you have the initial call, they start to see a path forward. You don't want it to be one and done, right? It's almost kind of like my weight loss journey. I go to the gym and I'm like, I'm here. And I'm so motivated. And then, you know, it's keep that long-term commitment. Yeah, healthy living, healthy finance. So, yeah. So what maybe is a shift that helps to build momentum with with Savvy Lady clients so that they build a long-term confidence and commitment to certain behaviors and actions.
One thing that I use with a lot of clients, I encourage them to use with themselves, is celebrating the small wins. The path to financial independence, financial security is a marathon. It's not a race, and it takes baby steps to get there, And so just reminding yourself, helping the clients remember that every little step in the right direction is a small win. It should be celebrated, and they're all hard, Just because you're not reaching your goals tomorrow doesn't mean that those steps you've made along the way aren't important and worthy to be celebrated. So, they had a hard money conversation. That's incredible. Maybe they put a little extra on their credit card. Those are all things that are so important and they should feel so good about. And so just kind of keeping that mindset of like the whole idea is you eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's like we're working towards the right end goal, maybe slowly, maybe gradually, but you should be celebrating every step that you take along the way.
I think I would just add, from a practical, like, how do we actually do this, right? I mean, if I'm talking to a bunch of fellow advisors and volunteers, right? So I have in my Calendly, like I have hours in my week that I have set aside for Savvy Ladies slots. And I have a special link for my Savvy Ladies. And when I get off the phone, when I get off that call, I'm like, here is my link. You can schedule, right? And we'll report it back to the greater organization so that the hours count and all of that. But to take that friction out of the equation and say and I don't do it if someone is not that much fun to talk to. Whatever. But you have that connection and you want to keep that conversation going. You can totally do that and still, have that relationship grow.
I love it. Now, I know, Jordan, you mentioned you yourself you're not a financial planner, but it's so critical to have you in this conversation because the point of view you bring forward is broader, right? And I know the FFP recently did a study with pro bono financial advisors. I wondered, would you mind sharing some of the key findings from the study?
Of course. So in June 2023, we surveyed about 1,200 CFP professionals on pro bono service. And as we started to gather data, we started to see a really compelling case for pro bono. Not that it only benefits underserved communities, but it benefits advisors, firms, and the profession overall. And I'm just going to read some of my notes since I'm dealing with numbers. But out of all participants, 73% said that they had performed pro bono service. 50% said they had engaged in 1 to 12 hours of pro bono service in the last year. And so what we saw is that people aren't just casually supporting the idea, they were actively doing the work. And one of the most powerful findings was that 99% said that they gained satisfaction from helping people in need. And so I think there's just like a real special fulfillment when helping pro bono clients, because often these clients have little room for error. And so your guidance can be life-changing, from generational poverty to generational wealth. But then another big finding was around professional development, and it was mentioned earlier, but about 71% said they gain both hard skills and soft skills through pro bono work, because they're exposed to different life experiences, new financial challenges, diverse client communication styles, and more emotionally complex situations. And the third point was really amazing. So firms that support pro bono and engage in it, they gain a competitive edge in talent recruitment and retention. And so close to half of participants said they would be more likely to want to work at a firm that encourages pro bono service. And this strongly resonated among young advisors and more diverse advisors. So 55% of advisors under the age of 35 said that they would be more likely to want to work at this firm. And then 55% of women said the same thing. But what stood out is that while younger advisors and women really value pro bono culture, only or less than 1/3 of their firms actually had policies or practices that actively support pro bono. So I think we're seeing that when firms intentionally engage and support in pro bono service, they can position themselves as employers of choice, not just generally, but among those who are 35 and under and diverse talents.
So I'm curious, I mean, I definitely see that from an RIA perspective, right? We hear from students, early career professionals, that there is that need to be able to be of service, right? So they are looking to, exactly to your point, they are looking for firms that offer opportunities to do that. I'm curious if there are any other trends that you're seeing from the study or even in your day-to-day that are really shaping the industry.
Yeah, so again, pro bono service really strengthens like the technical and the human side of skills. And so we're really seeing pro bono service really strengthens skills around like communication, leadership, and navigating like difficult life situations. So 71% said that pro bono helped them develop stronger client listening and communication skills. 73% said it gave them the opportunity to interact with a more diverse client base, helping them become more effective and comfortable communicators overall. And then second, we're seeing that advisors are developing their leadership and counseling related skills. So more than half of advisors said pro bono allowed them to take on new roles and develop leadership skills that they could apply with paid clients and throughout their careers. 70% said pro bono strengthened skills connected to resolving money conflict, counseling principles, and navigating crisis situations with severe consequences. And then again, it strengthens those technical skills. So 80% said pro bono service helps strengthen skills related to budgeting and cash flow. And I don't know if you all can relate to that. Debt management, retirement planning, tax planning, education savings, and other areas. But last point, when it comes to this, I think this is the reason why FFP, we're supporting several university financial planning programs that have integrated pro bono in their student learning, like Chico State, UGA, so University of Georgia, and Texas Tech. Back in December, we interviewed a financial planning student from Chico, and he initially told us that he was nervous when stepping into this role, right? But through his mentorship with the CFP, he quickly like built the confidence, right? And by his sophomore year, he was like leading meetings. And by the time he started applying for internships, he already felt comfortable working directly with clients. And before graduating, he of course secured a job at a top firm in his area. So I think we're seeing that when we integrate pro bono into the development of students and young advisors, we are ultimately cultivating professionals who are more adaptable, confident, and well-rounded.
I love that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, because from our role, from where I sit in Schwab, a lot of the conversations we have with clients is around what training the Schwab offer to help train my younger advisors, right? Yeah, on the Schwab systems, and we have that type of training. But to your point, those real life client conversations are the best training opportunities for younger talent, right? So I love the connection. Abby, yes.
Yeah, so to that point, it's interesting because this was something very different also about Mercer, where we actually have what it's really more of an apprenticeship. It's not like you're hired into a role. You are basically shadowing somebody along the journey, and the more senior person is your apprentice. So it really creates this pathway for confidence building from the start to, more senior level wealth advisors. Because you're not doing like the online on-demand training programs. You're literally sitting in the seat next to the advisor in client meetings, sometimes delivering the financial plan and so on and so forth. So it really does create more of a commitment to that whole purpose when you're shadowing somebody who's also already been doing that.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. To have the mentor right next to you.
Yeah.
Well, we have 10 minutes. I do want to, before I ask a final question of everyone, wanted to open it up to all of you folks online. If you have any questions for our panelists, happy to take those. Bridget.
I just have a couple comments. Your weight loss journey comment made me think of so I'm a CrossFitter. I swear I'm not crazy about it. I'm like crazy bit. Something an analogy I always draw is consistency. So when we're talking about like just continuing to take those baby steps, it's the consistency of, practicing those skills, just, getting in there, looking at your bank statement, looking at your spending, looking into your progress toward retirement. And it's just the consistency of continually doing that. And then to your point about the apprenticeship, I think from the client's standpoint, to see that investment in staff is so powerful.
I agree. Other questions or comments? Okay.
I would love, you guys share so powerfully how much Savvy Ladies and volunteering has impacted where you all are. How do we attract more volunteers? Because that is actually one of our next steps is we're going to be needing to definitely increase our capacity to make sure the thousands of women that come, because one of the things we tell women is that, and men who are volunteering, 1 hour a month, maybe 2 hours a month. So there's not that overwhelm. Now I know we have some people here that, they take that to the extreme, but for a lot of people, they can't do that. How do we attract more people, more great advisors?
I personally think that, those of us in the room with Mercer can help. We have 450 advisors around the country. There's a start right there. I don't know how many of them are aware of Savvy Ladies, but that's a starting point.
From your perspective, like what can you guys do? This is fantastic, right? Reaching out to these larger firms that have that kind of reach. Your resources are what they are, right? So it's really I think it's on us, right? The volunteers to continue to just commit to share the word to our clients, to their children, to, all of the people we come across. I work in a co-working space, which is really, really fun. So there are like 7 other female advisors in my space. And, what I love about women advisors more so is, that competitive thing, it's like not there. It's like, there's enough work to go around, right? Like, and so we're just constantly, so I was like, where are you going tomorrow? I'm going to this. And they all were like, oh, how is that? And so now they're going to check it out. And it's just getting it out there and having it be part of your life is just kind of lack of a better.
I was going to say, I think plugging into this next generation of advisors would be great. Jordan shared some compelling statistics about the desire for young financial advisors to support and serve pro bono clients. I know when I stumbled upon Savvy Ladies, I was looking for that, but I didn't quite know what I was looking for. And so luckily I found Savvy Ladies, got plugged in. But I think kind of starting early if possible, getting plugged in with those new graduates, those new hires, and kind of showing them as something that can go alongside their work with clients that pay them, but then some fulfilling work pro bono as well.
Yeah, to add on to that, we get the question, I want to do pro bono work, but like my compliance team won't let me. So I think working with firms and dealing or meshing out that compliance issue would remove a barrier. Or we get questions about like insurance liability coverage, and so saying like, oh, our partner FFP offers that to you all, so you're good on that front, really helps to remove barriers.
I mean, also just to go back to the NAPFA thing, I mean, like if Savvy Ladies sponsored a student to attend a conference or what have you, and then you get your, splash up there and you get that connection.
Yeah, I think awareness for sure is key, right? To yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Yes. Believe me, my mind is running. Like, we have a handful.
Weight loss journey.
There are many firms. Oh, from virtual. Yes. Okay, let's take a question.
So at first, I just wanted to mention that the people on Zoom had asked if you guys could repeat the question
Yes.
before you answer it, but I've been typing it in, so hopefully that works. But Jose had asked, and I might be able to help answer this one as well, but love to get your opinions. In terms of speaking with the Savvy Ladies clients, are you guys finding the need for multiple meetings? And I guess I would just say, a lot of times they aren't really prepared to ask the questions or have the information that they need. So there may be a need for multiple meetings, but from your experience, how is that, Emily?
I would say I do experience that. I kind of like what you had talked about, maybe not feeling prepared, but also just like I said, financial independence is a journey. And so you can kind of start having that conversation, but more often than not, they're like, okay, I've accomplished these things. Can we talk about the next steps? And so a lot of people that I work with, I encourage them to go back and book another call with me, go through the helpline and schedule a couple of follow-ups. So I do see that more than not, I would say that
I agree. I see a balance, but there is this tendency if they enjoyed the time, right, and they're committed to it, they want to know what's next, right? Like, so they'll come back for more. And technology has really made this so fantastic to be able to keep that connection going, right? So, and being an independent, like I can say, I'm giving you, right, like access to my portal and the Savvy Ladies technology connects us to so many more individuals than we would have otherwise, which is so huge. So I would say that it's not a requirement if that's where
Right. I wanted to add, and
right.
Of course it's not a requirement. And then just to keep in mind that the intent of the helpline is to give them the actionable item so that they're not overwhelmed and they can start gaining the confidence step by step. Like Amanda, you were alluding to that before. But in our new technology, we do have a way to set up another meeting with them to track it. So that's all there. And then we just had some people sharing their story online that again, Hannah, another person from the internship, that's how they heard about us. So that's a great resource. And then one of our longtime volunteers, Marge, said that she is a retiree and she has kept her certifications to be able to volunteer with us. So she is mentioning if there was a way to reach out to retirees. I don't know if you all keep track.
That is an amazing idea. Whoever said that, that was fantastic.
That's a great idea.
That's a really good idea. Excellent.
Sign up this week that is keeping her CDFA and CFP to do this work. So
that's a great idea. Just the final question.
Yeah, so listening to this conversation, I'm curious to how you all feel about AI. And when I think of AI, I think of like the agents that do the busy, repeatable tasks for you so that people can then free up their time. So that even for people who want to do pro bono work but are like, I don't have the time, incorporating like I vibe code. So it's just like, well, how do I listen to what the needs are and then create something to satisfy their needs exactly? Because at the end of the day, people want to save, they want to optimize their time. And I think it could be a really super helpful way, especially when we're looking at the 35 and under crowd. It's like, well, we're also with the times. so we can, yeah.
So the question for folks online is essentially the role of the possibility around the role AI plays in the advisor-client relationship. Any comments? Yeah, Abby.
I think that the role AI plays and will play are on those repeatable processes, administrative tasks, workflows, things that are not high value in terms of the relationship that you're building with the client. I don't think the relationship you have with somebody can be replaced by AI. So although I've read stories about people having girlfriends that are AI, which I don't really understand, but especially as it relates to pro bono work, there's going to be a difference between looking at somebody across the seat or through your Zoom lens and knowing it's a real person who has empathy and actually cares. Even if the work itself is being driven by AI, it's that relationship and that one-on-one that is the highest value that we can deliver to any client.
All right. Well, we are about to get the hook, maybe. Such a great conversation. Thank you to our panelists. Sharing your stories. Thank you.
So for all those interested in the room and on Zoom who may not be volunteers yet or are volunteers and coming back to volunteer, I just want to share that Tracy and I we've worked really over the last couple of years to launch the Savvy Ladies Helpline as an app, to be digital first and to use technology and embrace technology in a way that is operational. It helps facilitate the meetings and it helps make the connection more possible in a quicker way. But everything we do, we want to drive to a one-to-one conversation because, as Abby said, it is so important to have that relationship and even for that one call. And what I loved hearing from the panel is the motivation. The women, Amanda, as you're right, they come to us because they're asking a question. So we're reaching out as Savvy Ladies to more communities, diverse communities, marketing to more women in those diverse communities through outreach with podcasters in certain communities, Latina podcasters, where they're talking lifestyle, because many of the women who need the financial help are not listening to CNN or Forbes. They're not going to the Financial Times. They're on lifestyle publications with influencers that are talking about health and wellness. And so we have focused some of our outreach and our campaigns and social media working with various partners. And that has really helped drive our increase because we talk about I like to look at it as a marketplace. We have our Savvy Ladies volunteers, and then we have the clients, and we have to grow both sides. And our platform, which is the Helpline app, has the capacity to grow. So the goal of Savvy Ladies is to have more money conversations and connect with, let's get to over 3,000 women that are submitting financial questions to us. Last year, we were at 2,500, 14% increase. It's going to put us right at that 3,000, right over it. We have currently registered around 300 volunteers. The beauty of the volunteering is you come in and out. If you need to put your certification or your access on hold because it's tax season, you're going on vacation, it's graduation, that's okay. You come back into the fold because we ask you to take 1 or 2 a month. And then because we have such a wonderful community, robust community, when that client comes back and they have another question, as Tracy always says, they could go from budgeting to saving. They might have an investing question now, or they started a new career. They have a question about their 401. They can get connected to another volunteer. And we put the power in the volunteer to pull the question into the queue. We're not assigning questions. The volunteers question they want to answer into their queue, they make the connection and they have the meeting with the client. So we really want to make it user friendly for both the women and the volunteers. And we want to grow to 500 volunteers because ultimately, I think we should be able to get to 5,000 women. So how do we get to more women also? It's motivating, letting more women know that we are a trusted resource. And that is one of our focuses as an organization, is building trust with diverse communities across the country. And with that is something I'm super excited to have Stacy Francis, our founder. This is like a treat, guys. I'm so excited to do this, is have her share, which is what has really been the heart and soul of Savvy Ladies, and the heart and soul of what Stacy does at her firm is have a conversation, have a money conversation. So we talked about this last year. We talked about our money circles, taking our money circles out into the schools, into the universities, into communities. We've tested it with Bottomless Closet, Dress for Success, the libraries, and we are now putting together an LMS, a learning management system, where we are going to train the trainers, because I can't have Stacy in 500 places. But we can train you. So Stacy is going to do a money conversation demo for the next 30 minutes with Q&A. So each of you who might be interested to take this idea of money conversation circles out into your communities, that means the libraries, the Girl Scout groups, other different groups you can think of, we want to expand. That's how we will get more women to ask questions. So Stacy.
Yeah. All right, so before we go and get going, everybody has to stand up. And all of you on Zoom too, I can't see you. Bye. All right, so let's move around and get ourselves going. Get ready to do some talking about money. It's okay, I'm the one who looks the funniest. All right. All right, so let's get sitting down. Has anyone ever been part of a conversation circle about money, or you may have heard of it as called a money circle? Has anyone been part of them? Okay, we've got Hannah, we've got Bridget, Lisa, Emily, great. So these are very special meetings. They're not workshops, they're not presentations. You don't have a PowerPoint behind me saying catch up contributions for over age 50. If you earn XYZ, it needs to go into a Roth, right? It's not about that. Really what it is it's all about talking about money is savvy. Talking about money, as we know, is not the easiest thing to do. And I have done at least over 100 of these circles. And my hope is that today I can take all of that experience, all of that knowledge to help you bring this to your community. Now, the other thing that I'm hoping for you, that I would love to, support you in however that is potentially to bring this to your practice, because it is absolutely life-changing. So what are conversation circles? They're circles of individuals. Typically, we keep them at about 20 people. And if you have more than 20 people, you then often would need maybe 2 facilitators. Typically, I facilitate them on my own. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take you through what it looks like and feels like to have a conversation circle. But I'm also going to break out of that mold and tell you some of the things that you as a facilitator should be thinking about and how to make it the best experience possible. So now before you get worried about this, we have agendas, we have how you do this. So we've created like a worksheet that even gives you the words to say. What you're going to see in that workshop and that worksheet is that it's going to be a little different than maybe some of the things I say. Why? Because everyone's going to make it their own. So I'm going to talk to you about how I dealt with a conversation circle with girls in the Bronx from many of them families that lack money, definitely do not talk about money. And I'm going to share that experience with you. I'm also going to share what the experience might be with adults. FY, high school girls are the hardest. 100% the hardest. The hardest audience that I've ever spoken in front of. All right. So what do you do? The first thing is that we are asking people about getting real about money. We need to be vulnerable. So when I start a introduction and introducing a conversation circle and introducing myself, I get really vulnerable and I share my personal story about why I do this work and why it's so powerful. So I know my story has a lot of trauma. It is, involving a family member who passed away because of domestic violence. You do not need to have a story like that to bring your attention. But we all know someone in our life whose story impacted us. We all are doing this work because there is something that drives us. And so for a conversation to work, you have to dip down into that. You have to get vulnerable, authentic, put yourself on the line and share what that story is, or maybe share your challenges that you have dealt with too. Has anyone ever been to a therapist, and I've been to many, where you tell them everything and you wonder, do they have all their shit together? And it would be so nice to know that they don't, right? So it's the same thing, because when you're standing in front of a group, people are going to put you up on a pedestal. And you're going to feel like you have it all together. And no one wants to get vulnerable with you. So that first part of introducing yourself is getting real. Saying the challenges that you had with your life. Saying maybe bad financial choices that you made. And trust me, I've done a lot. That is the first piece. The second piece is really setting the stage, and setting that stage that this is not a workshop. This is not about grilling you on IRAs or investings or credit card interest rates. This is about conversation. It's about money. And the reason why that's so important is that's the first step to help us get more empowered about money. That is the first step to help us create a community. And it is the first step for us to start to build our financial confidence and that financial muscle. So I talk about that and why this is so important. And then the next part I go into is talking about how this is a safe space. It is a safe space. Sometimes I'll say, it happens in Las Vegas, stays in Las Vegas. If we're in the Hippodrome, what happens in the Hippodrome stays in the Hippodrome. That's really important because people are going to need to feel safe to share maybe some of their thoughts and their journey. So that's the next piece. And then the final piece is that I talk about how you can be the most wonderful person to give a gift to your partner. And we're going to break up into partners. I'm going to show you how it's all done. But typically when we're speaking with someone, and I'm one of them, I'll be speaking with Emily and she'll be talking about maybe how she's thinking about adopting a dog. My whole mind's going like, I have 3 dogs. I can tell you about the best dog walkers. I can tell you how Matilda nearly ate another dog yesterday. Right? But we talk about how that's not what we want to be doing, that we're going to be breaking up into groups, and that's important because you want the high schoolers, or the high school often is with their grown up, or maybe it's a client with another client. You're going to be breaking up into small groups, and we're going to be teaching them how to be great listeners. And the way I say that is that I'm going to ask you, Emily, to give a very special gift to your partner. Would you want to do that?
Yes.
Thank you. That's the right question. If you said no,
No,
not have that happen.
Yeah, it's like, what is that?
And I'm going to ask when your partner is sharing that you don't say anything, that you just are there, you are opening, you are nodding your head, you're giving affirmation, and you're letting them share. And then your partner, Hannah, is going to do the same thing for you. Because what's important about circles is that, yes, we're going to have a group share, but the other piece is you want to create connection. And often connection can happen more effectively when you have people working one-on-one. And again, that's what's so freaking cool about this process. So we have some conversation cards. We're going to go ahead and put them out on each table. And we're going to do a little bit of a role play. These are very special cards that we can share with you. A huge kudos to Judy and Tracy. These, and if you could just pass them around, each color is a different topic. And so if you could each pass them around your tables. And what's going to happen for those of you online, you're not going to be missing out at all. What Tracy is going to do is Tracy is going to type in the chat some of these cards. And in groups where it's a live event, what you often do is you ask the group to go through and choose a few cards that they like. That's really powerful, especially for the teenagers, because there's going to be one card maybe that they love to talk about, and there are going to be others that they are not. It also engages them, right? It also engages them. So when it's in person, that's a wonderful thing to do. Again, because they are making that active movement to choosing a card. So I'm going to ask those in the audience that have a card, maybe a card that you really like. And just so you know, these questions are different. Every single one of you has a different question. Can anyone raise their hand and say what's on their card? And if you could do it loudly for our Zoom people to hear.
The question on my card is, what is your financial goal right now? And what is the question you need answered to reach it?
What is your financial goal right now? And what question do you need answered to reach it? Great question. Does anyone else have another question that speaks to you? Yes.
Mine says, what is something you wish you could buy and why?
Love it. Okay, so right here, what is something that you wish you could buy and why? This works really well with teenagers. This is always one that they pick, and they have a lot to say about it. All right, one more. Okay.
I think the one entitled Financial Independence for You. What's an activity you truly enjoy doing?
All right, what is financial independence for you? What is truly an activity that you enjoy doing? All right, so these are all different. And what's special about these cards is that if you wanted to maybe tailor the cards available to your audience, you can go through and do that too, which is great. And so what I would do to just start us off after I told you my personal story. Maybe I said something like, this is true. We bought an apartment that was more expensive than we could afford because my husband's salary dropped by 50% in 2008. And we struggled and shared those things. I get very vulnerable. You need to do that too. I would then talk about the tenements that I just went through, about safety, quiet in Las Vegas, how we work together as in teams. Then I'm going to open it up with just a general question. And there are lots of them. You can use any of these. Something that works often is, when I say money, what is the word that comes up for you? What's the first word that comes up in your mind? This is where you're going to get your community of people to start to participate, because we are going to, as a group, participate first before then we have our other cards and break up. So with that, and on chat too, Tracy, if you could put that question, if anyone wants on chat, what is the first word when I say money that comes up for you? Anyone? Stress. Exactly, stress. Freedom. Okay, great. Freedom.
Feeling it's like,
Okay, Hannah is a sigh, a sigh.
like I don't.
Yeah. Anyone online, any words that come up for you? Tracy, anyone? No? All right, guys. There's got to be some words that come up for you. We're going to come back to you and we will find you guys and we will pull that out of you. But this is where you can start to see people already start to, and did you see also how I moved quickly? Right? I moved quickly because it was, number one, you don't feel so vulnerable if I'm moving quickly, and more people are likely to do it. Now, what else did I do? I repeated. Did you hear that? I repeated. And then Hannah heard that and she said, oh, I felt heard. She got me. And sometimes I'll also do something called looping. Does anyone know what looping means? Looping is something you learn when you don't want to have your children hate you. I do this. You can use this at home. So, Samantha, what you're telling me is that you need another snack. Now, we've talked about this, that mommy has a job and that mommy can't always get you a snack. Would you be okay getting a snack? Understanding that. Okay, mom, that sounds good. Instead of, I'm going to kill you. We talked about the snack issue, right? So that is, and FY, she's 17. It's not an 8-year-old. Yeah, you can imagine I have some parenting issues that I'm working through, some boundary issues as well. But the looping and FY, you can use this not only with the people in your money circle, but this is wonderful for Savvy Ladies clients. This is also for your clients. So when you have someone sharing, I say, what I'm hearing you say is blah, blah, blah. Is that right? Do I have it right? Is there anything you would want to add? That is a fantastic way, whether you're in a group setting or one-on-one, to make sure that that person knows that you're being heard. Okay, so we have told our personal story. We've created authenticity and vulnerability. We've shown the tenements, which are all written out for how a money conversation is going to go. We've opened it up to the group about what money, that first word, means to you. People are participating. And then what we do is we typically go into a journaling exercise, which, funny enough, look at what you guys have in front of you. You have your own Savvy Ladies journals. And I think, Judy, these are the first people to ever get these Savvy Ladies one-of-a-kind journals. And I'm sure, Tracy, you had a hand in this. So thank you so much. Not to mention your beautiful Savvy Ladies pens. And so what I'm going to have you do, I am going to have you do a prompt. We're going to try and do the same prompt all together. Now, you can do separate ones too. But for today, so that we can kind of compare and really participate. So what that first prompt is what did you learn about money? And how has that shaped you today? So we're going to have a prompt. You're going to use these 2 minutes to write in your little book. And typically we provide those. And it's really good for you to provide them. It doesn't have to be as fancy as this. But you want to give pens and pencils because you don't want someone to say, oh my God, I didn't know I was supposed to bring that. So you provide that. And we spend about 2 minutes just writing. And that's actually what I'm going to ask you to do. Now, what I want you to see too is guess what? I'm going to be writing too. Because I am not just workshopping. I am part of this process, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to set my little alarm for 2 minutes and we're going to write and then we're going to come back together. Everyone on Zoom, we are going to be watching you too. Tracy can see you. She can see you and we want you to be writing as well. And I'm going to give you a 1 minute warning. We're going to again take 2 minutes. And what the prompt is, how were you raised with money? And how has that shaped you today? About 1 minute left. Okay, and we're going to come on back. How was that? Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is typically we would break up into groups. So I would say 1, 2, 1, 2, and everybody would have one partner and you would have 1 minute where one person would share all of what they wrote down and their partner would listen. They would not jump in and say, me too. They would just listen. And then we would switch. And you can also, if you have more time, it's nicer to do maybe 2 minutes. And then we would come back for what we call a full group harvest. The full group harvest is really powerful because what you're going to find is that people are going to be much more willing to share their words that they wrote down. Why is it? Because they just shared with their partner and they just had a great experience being truly heard. So pretend that we just did that. And FYI, even us as financial advisors, this is powerful. Every money circle I participate in. I am doing the actual exercises. I am meeting with one of those other people, and we're doing that. And I will tell you, every single time I walk away with an aha as well. All right, so we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that question. What were some of the things that came up of how you were moneyed, thought about money, and how that showed up for you? Okay, so let's pretend, Bridget, thank you so much. Let's pretend no one raised their hands. What would I do? Isn't that your worst fear? That everyone looks at you and doesn't raise their hand? What would you do? What would you recommend?
Share myself first.
Exactly. So what I would do, because remember, I've been part of this. And so I'm going to share myself, and I'm going to share that we didn't talk about money. And when money was talked about, people who had money who were rich, were greedy, and mean. That's what I learned. I also learned that if you don't have money, it actually reduces the options you have in life. And money can actually keep you physically safe. How does that show up? Well, for me, I'm a financial advisor, and I'm obsessive compulsive about having enough money, something that I'm still working on. But by sharing that now, and I'll say, does anyone want to participate? Does anyone resonate with any of that, right? And then Bridget's going to jump in, and you'll have to resonate. But Bridget, can you share? Thank you. And I'm also going to thank her for saying, you are so brave. I really appreciate you.
So for me, growing up, child of the Depression, definitely like a sense of money and as a scarcity mindset. And yep. Sure. I grew up as the child of the Depression, and so we definitely had like a scarcity mindset in the house, and very risk averse, but also kind of to your point about like having a negative view of people who were wealthy, like, oh, that's them and we're different. And so that definitely left me self-limiting for a really long time. And so I've overcome a lot of that, but still kind of have to catch and correct some of those tendencies when I limit myself.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much, Bridget. Yay. And so honoring Bridget, clapping. Does anyone else want to join? I mean, who wants a round of applause? Come on up, right?
Just so you know, we did have 4 people respond online.
4 people responded online. Okay, so what are some of the things, Tracy?
Get the glasses out. One was a child of 6 children, and the parents always saved money and learned the importance of always putting something aside for a rainy day. And,
okay, so someone, one of 6 children, parents always put money away and really learned like you always need to have money put away for a rainy day.
And then, so that person has been saving since their first job at 16.
That's impressive. Wow.
Jose shared that he learned from his father that it's not how much you make in life, but how much you save. And that prompted him to have a savings mindset in life and to live below means. As a result, it reduced the stress of money over my life and helped me reach financial independence.
That's amazing. So those are great, because what's wonderful too is that when people share, Bridget and I had some negative things, right? But there might be some other people with positive stories. And so hopefully you have that too. You have that too. As far as how long a money circle would take, there are different lengths. Usually it's about an hour. And if it is an hour, then what we can do is we actually can do another prompt. And so you can choose another prompt as well. And we have all the prompts for you. We've got lots of great ones for you. And what you can do too is that you can change the prompt. So I've written, I think, about 15 or 16 different money circles. And I have one for widows. And so one of those prompts is, now that you are on your own, how has money changed for you in your life? Very powerful, right? So you can also change the prompts based on the group that you're working with. And again, what's wonderful is you've got a lot of options here too for you. So we would do that. Typically, we don't break up again. We then come back to that full harvest, and then we close out. Now, closing out is really important because what you want is you want to take this very powerful experience and you want to make sure that everyone who is participating has a to-do, that they are going to take something from this to put into effect. And so maybe it is that learning you had about your money, what are you going to do in the next 30 days to improve your relationship with money? Or what are you going to do in the next 30 days to put yourself in a better financial situation? So it's something where there is a to-do and an action item, because the last thing you want is, after this very special, for a lot of people, life-changing experiences talking about money, you want them to be able to move forward. And one of those things should be going to the Savvy Ladies website and going to the Savvy Ladies Helpline, right? Something that I've done, and this takes a little bit of work, but you could do if you really want to be a star, is you have them write a postcard to themselves or a note to themselves and address the envelope. And then you send it to them in 1 month or 3 months. And they're writing to their future self saying, I am so proud of you. You did X, Y, and Z. It takes a little bit more work, but it is phenomenally powerful for someone to get a letter in the future from their past self. So the other things you can do when it's in person is that you can have either a talking stick or a stone. And the stone might say hope, it might say believe, it may say savvy, it can say anything. But that can also be powerful of being able to have one person then give it to another person, because it connects us all. So something that can happen though, let's think of the worst things that can happen in a money circle. You as the person who is leading it. And most of them I think have happened to me. One of them is no one shares, right? No one shares. Anything else that could be really bad?
Oversharing.
Thank you. Oversharing. What about someone deciding to use this as a launch pad to explain their political views? Has anyone had that one? Right? That's another one, right? What if someone comes in late? That can happen, right? And it's a very safe environment. All right, so let me tell you how you deal with all of these. In that initial, we're saying kind of the rules, we share that this is an all share group, that this is not about one person, and we want everyone to have an ability. And so when someone goes off and I say, Bridget, I appreciate you sharing, but could we maybe talk about that? I really want to come back to what money means for you and what that looks like. That might be a nice way to do it. The other thing to think about of if someone comes in late, if I look at the attendance list
and not everyone's here, I start off by saying, has anyone ever had something come up in their life and you arrived at a meeting or a seminar or a party late? And hopefully everybody raises their hand, right? And so I'll say, we have a few people running late tonight. So when they come, could you give them that grace that you would wish that someone gave you to really welcome them into this safe space? It helps all of us not feel frustrated and maybe God, maybe even judge. Like, I freaking made it here late and I had to XYZ, right? It helps us understand that that's happened to us, but it also allows them, and we make sure that their seat is ready to go. So the other thing for you to know is that you can do this online. I have done as many of these online as I have in person. And what's wonderful about online is that you can open it up to a greater community. And the one thing I will tell you with online is that we do ask everyone to keep their video on unless they're going to the bathroom in the bathroom, which has happened. In fact, we had, at least in my circles, they don't realize that they're, and we had, Tracy got to deal with someone who decided to change and forgot that they were on video. So obviously turn your videos off for that. But, and I make it kind of funny, but people need to be present for this. This is not like, something put on by the IRS and it's, the tax update and you don't have to have your video on. It's very important. And actually what I share about your video, sharing your video shows respect for others. Again, when you no longer about you and it's about sharing respect for others, you bet people put their videos on. So very important. Even if someone is driving, that's fine. Put your video on. You do not have to participate. You can just listen and that's okay too, right? But we do want your videos on. So how do you deal with when people do the one-on-one breakouts via Zoom? Exactly. So you do breakout rooms. And each breakout room, you can easily program to have 2 people in it. And sometimes it's nice to have 3 people. If you have a bigger group, you're going to want to maybe do 3 people. What's nice about 3 is that if one person is really not communicative, you've got another person. But what you're doing is you're making sure that instead of that having maybe 2 minutes each, so 4 minutes, then maybe you're doing 7 minutes. The other thing you can do that you saw me do, I was prompting you, right? And I said, we have about a minute left. It's very easy to do in person. When you're online, you can broadcast to each of the separate breakout rooms to say the second person should be going now, right? And the third person, and I let them know that, and I let them know roughly how much time. All right, and so how are we on time with the money circles?
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions there?
So I understand why you showing vulnerability makes them trust you. But you did say that high school girls are the hardest. If you have a circle that inherently doesn't know one another, how do you build trust in the group?
So every single circle I've ever done, most people don't know each other. They don't. The trust is built by you setting up the tenements and the rules of the circles. And we have exact wording that you can use. That trust is built by us. Typically, you're sitting in a circle. That's usually how you're doing that. I used to have a little fireplace until I realized that they recalled them on Amazon because they created actual fires. Not do that. That would be ideal. If you are in this format, because we've actually had circles here and they've worked really well. Your circle, you've got your table, right? And so you've got each group and you're kind of forming that and then you're breaking up one-on-one. We also have done it where the whole table will talk together, all different generations. We've never had a problem with building trust as long as you are respecting each other and letting each other speak. I guess as a closing, like, this is why this work is so powerful, right? And what's so powerful too is that to know that no one's alone. And I think that's what's really amazing about conversation circles, because you talk to other people who look like they have it all together. And you realize no one has it all together. And you just leave thinking, oh my gosh, wow. And I think what's special is that my hope is that we give ourselves grace, that we give ourselves grace as well. So we would love for you to continue to lean into this. We're happy to support you. We've created conversation circles with high school girls, but then also with Dress for Success. We've worked with all different organizations, the library as well. What I do find is that when you reach out to someone to say, could we offer a money conversation circle? The answer is usually yes, but I will tell you, again, most people have never heard of this. And so they're going to really kind of not know what you're talking about. And so whatever organization you're working with, whoever that liaison you're working with to actually put in place, if they could potentially be in that room or online for that conversation circle for that first time, that is really important and powerful, because I know I just explained everything, but and you got a little taste, which is wonderful. But being part of this as a full participant, you can't explain how that feeling is. You just, and the trust and the bonds that you create. And so what we can invite you to upcoming circles too, if you want to come to a circle that I'm facilitating.
Even better, because we know this is such a powerful tool that we have been recording Stacy and putting together her transcript and creating a platform for all the volunteers to actually take training online. So we want to support you doing these circles. And I want to recognize two people who came into the room during your presentation from the Amazon Fellows team, Matt Riley and Amika. Please stand up. They and Geet, but they have been helping Savvy Ladies. Savvy Ladies was awarded an Amazon Fellowship grant. And the pitch was the ask, we always ask, power of the ask. The ask was to help us put together the learning modular tools, the LMS system, to actually produce the tools that Stacy has shown you demoing today into a system that you guys can use so you feel confident as volunteers going into your communities. And we've put together, how long is the module? It's like a 20-minute, 30-minute, there's videos. We've given you some Q&As, some prompts. And of course, we have the questions for you to use as well. And Savvy Ladies, Tracy and I will be there every step of the way, especially for the virtuals. We get the calls all the time. Right now, we're working with the Student Leadership Alliance group in New York City to take it into the high schools, and they want to do more. And we constantly get dates. So once we get the dates, we want to share the dates with each of you to see if you're available to either do in person or virtual, and help and assist you along the way. So let us know, reach out to us, send an email to both Tracy and I, and we will get you starting to be set up.
And actually, one of the ones that we did record that you'll be able to see is going into the high schools. Okay. So we got permission from the school as well as all the girls that participated. And so you can actually see what it looks like with like a high school.
They've already called to say, are you coming back?
Yeah, I know. They already called and said, are you coming back? And I will tell you that while I'll be honest, I still get nervous. I get nervous anytime I do a money circle, just because, I mean, I'm human. And so if you're nervous, like, that's okay. It does get a lot easier as well. But there's not one other thing I've ever done for savvy ladies that fills my soul like the money circles.
No, you said that after we did one, and we did one up with the Bronx High School. I think that was the first one we did.
Yeah.
You had like such a hard time getting there because
Yeah.
Stacy's all the way up Battery Park City. We're all the way up in like in the Bronx. So it was exhausting for her to get there. We got there for the 9 o'clock. They had actually donuts for the kids. That does help sometimes, having like donuts and
Little sugar.
But you said to me afterwards, this was like, you just reset your day.
Yeah, I needed it. Like, we all need,
That's your soul.
we kind of need sometimes things to feed our soul. And I really needed that. And so you will not, I mean, I can't think of anything else that you would do as powerful as the money conversations. So, yeah.
2 questions. Is the purpose of the money circle to get people comfortable in talking about money? And how do you move on after, like, you do a money
Yeah.
circle, then what's next?
So great question. So there's a couple goals, and I'll let Judy chime in too, but it's getting individuals to start to talk about money. And most people haven't. It's also having action-oriented step at the end, right? So that's really important, and letting them know that part of that action-oriented is, taking one of the 250 courses that are on the Savvy Ladies website, or making a commitment to reach out to the helpline. So that's what we're doing. And then there are programs where they have us come back in, and there are, many different types of money circles that we can do with different topics tailored. Every single one can be different. There's no lack of like powerful questions to ask.
No, it takes a devoted school who wants to focus on it. So what we've seen is they're bringing financial education into the schools. But where this works so nicely, it's a complement, because we are not working with them on their 401ks. We're not teaching them a lesson. We're having a conversation. So while the schools might have an educator teaching them a financial literacy course, this, they find, helps them move that forward, because the students really want to be open and have an open dialogue. And they've said they haven't had, like, it's amazing the conversation amongst the girls around the table, because they watch each other all day long, and they know that you're spending money on buying, soda and treats, and you're going to the corner, and now you're complaining about money, but you want those sneakers. So like the dialogues that are coming out of these, the teachers have been like beyond so excited that this is a conversation that they can now have. We've left the questions with the teachers, so they also can continue to have, the kids can take questions from the box. It actually comes in a box. They can take these conversation starters and continue it until the next program. Hannah.
You keep saying high school girls. Like, is it just the girls, or girls and boys, or how does that?
So great question. So I mean, we're talking about high school girls because there was just that, but like, I've done far more circles for adults. I do find that a group of all women is a little easier to create a safe space to communicate. I have done circles with men and women, and that has worked. Typically what I'll do is I will just make sure that everybody understands that this is a participatory game, right? Like, everybody needs to participate. And sometimes what I'll do is, if it's Zoom, I will be a little bit more careful about the different groups that I put in. And that would be a case where maybe I put 3 people, just so that you've got more communication. And it's not against like men not communicating at all. It's not that. It's just that sometimes when it's all women, somehow women feel more comfortable. But it doesn't have to be single sex.
But to your point, Hannah, when we've gone into the libraries, it actually gets focused based on the organization we're working with. So we presented as conversation circles, and we have actually, so initially we presented it as conversations with your daughters, money conversations, mothers and daughters. And that evolved because the schools wanted it, and not all parents can be there. So it was a conversation with the school educators bringing in their classes. So we look to like accommodate the organization that wants to work with us. The libraries have really embraced this. So New York, Connecticut, Boston have asked for the circles. We've done some. That is a co-ed group. So we know the audience before we go in based on the organization we're working with.
Yep. Okay.
Kind of along the lines of like, what's the takeaway? Like, what draws people into these circles? Adults, obviously, I know that high schoolers, they're kind of already there, but what motivates people to sign up for money circles, especially if they don't know what they're signing up for?
So Emily brings up a question of like what motivates people to sign up. So we try to have a very good description because some people have said like, is this a cult? You know, it's hard to know. And even when you saw this session, you might have been like, what is this all about? Now that you've experienced it, hopefully you're like a raving fan. But often you don't really know until you've actually been part of it. So that description is really important. And working with that organization, whether it's Dress for Success or it's, another local community organization, Bottomless Closet. I mean, there's hundreds, as we know, that we can do this work for. It's having them really advocate how powerful this is. And often it's just even participating for the first time. I will tell you that the drop-off rate of people attending online is, I'm going to say 50%. I'm going to say 50%. So if you have, let's say 50 people signed up for an online and you're like, oh my God, this is too many. Because ideally you're looking at like 20, 25, don't worry.
And also know all the organization with these groups will be through us.
Yeah.
So Tracy and I have requests, but we also want in your community, if you have a great organization you want to take this into your community, we want you to go through our training, our learning modular. We want you to then say, oh, I think this organization would be great. You can go speak to them. We can have a conversation together with you and the organization. Tracy and I will be with you along the way to help you set it up and organize it. And usually working with the groups, we'll understand, is it our Zoom? Is it their Zoom? How do they want it? Is it a share of emailing? These are the conversations operationally that Tracy and I have. So we're not letting you go out there alone. We are here to help you, breakout rooms, the whole kit and caboodle. So Robin.
This feels a little bit like a rip the Band-Aid off situation, like you just got to get out there and do it. What would be, in your sense, like the most easy first time money circle situation to be a part of?
So I first want anyone who is, as a volunteer, who is interested in running a money circle to send us your name, because we are creating an onboarding for all of you. So we are, just like we have a volunteer onboarding submission form for the Helpline, we are creating a path in Salesforce that you will then submit and have a tag either on your current application form or a new one. Tracy, we're figuring this out in the back end, but you will have an online form that takes you into Salesforce. You will get tagged as either a volunteer or maybe you're not volunteering, but you want to do this. You want to be a facilitator. So we'll tag you as a money conversation facilitator. We will send you an invite to our LMS that we're putting together that will be launched. And I'm looking at the team that's helping us put it together. And that will be ready before summer starts. And then we will put out a form basically when you are ready to now execute them. Do you have locations you want to recommend? And we have also locations that have come to us that are looking for it. We just haven't had the capacity to deliver.
And to answer your question, Robin, when I first did I was very frightened, right? And it actually helped me because I had a friend do it with me, even though they didn't know what they were doing, but just like, I was like, okay, you're a friendly person. And it is a little bit like a rip the Band-Aid, you just do it. And it turned out amazing. And I think part of it is, and we talk about confidence of the women that we work with and their lack of financial confidence. For us, sometimes we don't have confidence, right, in this work. So I wouldn't say there's one group over another.
In person, probably.
You know, in person and virtual.
Is probably easier to start with, but it's a conversation we can have with you to see what works.
Yeah, in person is probably the easiest, but like the virtual, I'm like a master at too. And we can again share like best practices.
So we're gonna start this really rock star panel. I am so excited. One, that Amy Stone agreed to be our moderator for our panel. She is with Barron's, been a dear, dear friend of Savvy Ladies, of Stacy, and really thank you for being here today. It really is very meaningful to all of us. And this great panel that we have put together, we're going to talk about the confidence gap, helping women move from financial uncertainty to take action. I think we've been speaking about that all day, but I really am excited to hear it from our panelists. So Amy, I'll let you take it away and introduce our panelists.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I'm so happy to be here. I just want to commend all of you for volunteering and doing this important work and working with people who really need that kind of financial help and expertise. And, you know, doing it pro bono is just wonderful. So congratulations to you guys. All right, so I know you've been talking about confidence building, but now we're going to really drill down into it and get to some specifics and some personal stories. So we've got three great panelists, and they all have kind of different perspectives. Hannah's a little more training oriented. Stacy does it all, as everyone knows. And Jaita is also working with volunteers. So she can, she's a volunteer and works with Savvy Ladies clients, so she can address that. So why don't we start, and Hannah, we can start with you, just a really open question, like what is the confidence gap? That was kind of what Judy charged us with. Basically the gap between, you know, you have some financial knowledge, but you're not acting on it, and you need confidence to act on it. How do you see that?
Oh, there's such a wide range of all this. And what's so interesting when we were kind of talking about this panel is that, you know, we're talking about with our clients, right? We're talking with, you know, the women that you're volunteering with at Savvy Ladies, but also for us as well. And I think there's so many parallels that go between it. And I think, you know, what is this confidence gap? I think there's a lot of stories we tell ourselves, things that we believe about ourselves. And I think all of that kind of feeds into this. It's one of the things, you know, we run the externship program, so we're very much into like training this next generation of financial planners. And one of the things, for example, I guess this is more example, not explaining why, but like the women noticeably feel like they need a designation before they can switch a career. Like they need like the thing, right? They need some outside validation instead of like truly trusting themselves, trusting that like they have the solutions. And to me, at the core of this idea of confidence is that we haven't learned to trust ourselves, and we doubt ourselves, and we feel all of the shame and the guilt and the like all of these other narratives instead of really owning what we do know and being honest with ourselves, honest that we actually do know what we're talking about, that we have what it takes, and that we've proven that over and over.
Great. Stacey, do you want to jump in on the confidence gap and where you see it most? Is there a certain population you work with where it emerges more? Is it everywhere?
It's a great question. And I struggle with the confidence gap, and I can share a little bit of my journey. But the clients that I work with, particularly through my wealth management practice, about 70% of our clients who are women are on their own, and they have not always been that way. They usually were married, or their partner unfortunately has passed away, and they were not in the driver's seat of the finances. And so they find themselves many times for the first time in their life
having to face money. And I spoke to a wonderful woman yesterday who she just said, I've just had it. And quite frankly, I didn't know, like, did I do something wrong? Did I touch on something? And I said, can you share more? Where's this coming from? And she said, now I have to deal with all this. He dealt with it all and he passed away 8 years ago. And she goes, it takes so much time. I feel like I don't have enough time for this stuff and I just don't want to deal with it. And so we were able to kind of unpack that. But where I truly believe the confidence gap comes from is just because we haven't had as much experience. Does anyone online or here in the room remember the first time they got behind a wheel to start driving?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you feel?
Scared.
Yeah, scared. And in fact, I remember I was with my brother. We didn't even make it to the end of the driveway, and he told me he would never drive with me again. Actually, I don't think he ever did drive with me again. But now, you get in a car, right? I get in a car, and I don't even think about it. Right? It's just normal. We're comfortable. We know how to turn the turn signal. We know how to turn on the lights. We know how to turn on the windshield wipers. And it's very, very easy. And I liken the confidence gap to that. It's because we haven't been necessarily driving that car for 10, 20, or 30 years. And so it's new for us. And it doesn't mean that we can't learn this financial piece. It's just we haven't had all of that experience.
Yeah, that's so true. And I certainly share what you both have said, that the confidence gap is in ourselves as well, and having the confidence to know that we're experts and can share that. So Jaita, share when you work with the Savvy Ladies clients, do you see that confidence gap there?
Yes, quite a bit. So most of these clients, when they come, they do have the knowledge, right? They know that what they need to do. It's just that they don't have the confidence. They're worried if they're taking the right step or not. So that is where I see most of the time is the confidence level. And something that you said, very, very true for me, right? I feel like I do not have the confidence. That's why I go after all those degrees. I came here with nothing, right? Came here with nothing. I'm a first generation immigrant, didn't know about any of the financial knowledges over here. Worked very hard. And to be in the previous panel, they were talking about how it is an industry dominated by men. The confidence that I had to grow to be in front of people and be in front of clients and be where I am. I try to make sure that I'm sharing that experience with these ladies who are there, trying to make them understand that you are not alone. You can get through this. If I got through this, you can get through this.
Sounds like that's a great way to build confidence, to share your experience and show that you did it yourself. Anna, can you talk a little bit more about the credentialing? Is that something that you think when women want to gain confidence, they should go out and get those credentials necessarily, or is it more within? How do you balance those two?
I see this in myself too, right? But sometimes you're like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this, and then I'll be qualified. Okay, if you need to, go do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but there's also this, I mean, not to broadly speak, but like men don't need it. And they're still qualified. And so I think they go hand in hand. So oftentimes, I'm still working with clients. Oftentimes it's like, what's the next step that you need to take towards building that confidence? And for some people, especially for women, they need to take maybe more steps than their male counterparts. And so if somebody needs to go take the exam or be a full CFP before they can come into this field, okay, that's the step that they need to take. Now, is it the fastest way? Probably not. But also, like, they're moving. There's action. Like, I'm going to celebrate that just about every time. So I'm not sure that's fully answering that question.
No, I think that is.
I need to add a comment to that.
Yes.
I am that person.
Yeah.
I'm pursuing my CFP. I worked on Wall Street for 10 years. And I was like, I can't be a financial advisor. I don't have a CFP. Like, I mean, I believe in getting the CFP. I want to be an advisor that has one, but I've learned along the way that many people don't have it and they just go and work in the field.
One of the gifts of my career, re-recording this, can I say this? Early in my career, the level of incompetence that I saw with financial advisors, I know this is a terrible thing to say, but like, I saw some bad stuff when I started, like incompetence into kind of some extreme situations. Like they should not have been advisors. And I see that I'm like, wait, they were successful? So like, I know this is a terrible thing to say, but like one of the gifts of my career was being like, oh, and like, not that it's a hierarchy, but and again, for so many people coming in, what you're doing is you're coming in, you're comparing yourself to Stacey Francis. Oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, we should all just throw the towel, you know? But just kidding, not to. But you compare yourself to what you see online. You compare my insecurities with like the polish that I see. And I think what we don't realize is we don't, I mean, that's why the money circles is so powerful. You're getting to see inside of people. And I think that's why community is so important, especially for women advisors, that you get to see not the polish, you get to see the real inside. And you get to see like, oh, yeah, I might be a mess financially and I still can help other people. And, you know, I've heard it here this morning, like, oh, people don't know that putting stuff on their credit card and not paying it off every month is a bad thing or not something that we should do. Like if you're in the CFP curriculum, you are already more qualified than 98% of people in this country to give that advice.
I do want to make a comment on that because I am like you.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not in a position to advise if I do not have that credential. So that's so much me. So I agree with you.
But I've been advising all my friends and
Yeah,
family for like the last decade. But I was like, oh, but if someone's going to pay me to do this, I have to have all the credentialing first.
I will also say, like, I mean, and Stacey, you mentioned this too, like, I still experience this. Like, and it's a different scale now. So, like, even I was sitting there in the first session and they were talking about confidence. And like, we're building out these, like, this really cool training program. And I'm so excited about it. And like, all this, like, fun stuff with it. But I've been like, oh, I'm going to need that, or like, I can't do that. And I was like, wait, I'm still questioning myself. So I think there's also this thing of like, the goal isn't that we take away the lack of confidence because sometimes it's just going to be there. And I'm like, it's just whatever, it's there, but now I can see it, I can name it, and I can move on from it. So I don't think the goal is, how do I get to where I never worried about this? I think the goal is, oh, I can name it. Once I can kind of name it, I can set it aside and I can keep going. And so I think that's the important piece. Because you're right, you've done the hard stuff. And we know, all women in here, we know that women advisors have the skills that translate so directly to clients and build that trust.
Yeah, no, it sounds like that's a good takeaway for all of us here to just sort of know it yourself and pause and say, I do know this, and then go forward. So Stacey, when we met and talked about this panel, you had some good thoughts about what you'd seen happen over the course of a woman's life, often, you know, in gaining confidence. How does that tend to play out? Yeah, no, I mean, I'll share myself. I was always the girl in the back of the math class, and I actually was supposed to be wearing glasses in high school, but I thought that it didn't make me look as cool, so I didn't wear glasses. And so I couldn't even see the board, right? Let alone ever raising my hand. And I just didn't think that I was good with math. And just so you know, I am good with math. It turns out that I am. But it took me a long time to believe that. And so sometimes we have stories that we tell ourselves. And quite frankly, you know, I would never have gone into this industry because I thought I would have really, really, really sucked at it. The only reason I went in is because I was absolutely scared stiff of becoming like my grandmother and not understanding money and finding myself trapped in a relationship or like dependent on a partner. And so for me, I entered this field to start to educate myself so that I actually felt physically safe.
And as I started to take the classes, the CFP classes, because what I figured out was like, all right, why don't I just take the real classes, even though I don't expect to become a financial advisor? Let me take those quote unquote real classes that are certified financial planner classes. And as I took them, it was a very amazing awakening of, holy crap, this is really amazing. Number two, I get this stuff. Like I had to work really hard, but I get this stuff. And then number three, maybe I'm not going to become a therapist because so much of this work actually involves the therapy piece. And so I feel like as women, I mean, we have a journey that is my personal journey, but we also have a journey of, you know, graduating college and then getting our first job and then being thrown in the face of having to budget and afford, save, and then we're going to the next phase where we now potentially have a family and we are now trying to save for our children, we're trying to save for ourselves. Actually, in Savvy Ladies, that group of individuals shows the highest financial anxiety and the highest financial stress. And then after that, after the kids are on our own, we're then coming back to, oh my gosh, am I going to be okay? Did I save enough? And there was a study that literally just came out in the last day or two. 53% of all individuals ended up retiring earlier than they expected. Why? Why do you think?
Because they don't want to work.
Because of health. Because of health. And so women that are coming back having many times health issues, not being able to work at flat out in the role that they have, and then are having to relook it again. Am I on track and am I financially secure? So it's a very long phase, and you know, 8 out of 10 women at some point are going to be 100% making their own decisions about money. And the challenge is that throughout that journey, sometimes we end up with a partner, and that partner then takes that role, and that can be really hard if you find yourself that they're not there to make those decisions for you.
So Gita, you mentioned something I think is really interesting, that when you worked with the Savvy Ladies clients, that a lot of times they knew what they should be doing, and maybe you could give some examples. I don't know if it's trying to get out of debt or trying to save for a down payment on a home or whatever issue they were calling about, but they couldn't take that first step. And I bet a lot of the people in this room have experienced that themselves. I know I have, like, I got to get my 401k straightened out or rolled over, and then I never get around to it. But how do you, you know, everybody here, Gita, we can start with you. How do you get them to take that first step instead of just saying, I know, and not actually doing it?
So as a certified financial planner and a certified divorce financial analyst, I do take a lot of the divorce cases over there, because that is something that my practice is also based off. So I do take a lot of divorce cases. So most of these women are in a state where they're in an emotional transition, right? As you said, nobody had that money conversation with them. They don't even know what money means. They have the financial knowledge. And sometimes I do see women who are accomplished women, right? They have a job, they know, they should be knowing, they have the knowledge. So what I really do with them is the first step, or first, as you said, I think in the last panel, I think Summer was talking about listening. Listening is an art. So I listen, I have them vent out for at least like the first 3-4 minutes. Like first I ask them, how can I help you? You're here now, you have showed up. And I like to do a Zoom meeting where I can see them because they can see me. I do not like a phone call because I feel like they need to see me. Because that's how I also connect and build the trust. So then I usually, they will have a list of things that they're talking about. I try to make notes, and then I say, okay, what is among all these, as you mentioned, looping, So when I say that, okay, these are all your concerns, this is what you're looking for, what is the first thing you need me to take care of? Could be something simple as gathering your financials, like getting a copy of your tax returns from your accountant, right? Something simple like that. What do you think is the first step you can take today? So that's what I really do with
Identifying the first step.
first step. Yes. And then most of the time and I ask them, okay, let's build like a list of things that you need to do, and then let's tackle one at a time. Break it up a little bit.
Stacy, do you want to add like what you do when you have a client? Let's say, think of a hard case, a woman maybe in her 70s or 80s who lost their spouse who handled everything. I've heard many cases from advisors over the years that they have to sort of start from square one and how they even read their statement or get a handle on what's, they're in control of now. How do you build confidence in someone like that?
Typically, I start off by not getting into the actual details. And this might be different with a helpline client where you do have a set period of time. But usually that person, that woman, doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to be either on the helpline or she doesn't want to be reaching out to us. It's usually people reach out for financial help because something has gone wrong. And it doesn't have to be even that they've lost money. It can be that they're overwhelmed, their partner has passed away. So I try to, as best I can, really help them feel heard, help them feel seen. I use a lot of the looping. I know this sounds really crazy, but I actually have a list of questions taped onto my monitor so that I can ask those questions of, how has money changed for you now that you are on your own? If we were to be having a cosmopolitan with your girlfriend a year from now, and we had been working together and you were saying how happy you were, what would have happened in your life? What would have changed? And so we actually spend a good amount of time doing that, just letting her hear and listen. And then I ask the questions of, okay, tell me what your financial landscape looks like. And I know this sounds really obsessive compulsive, but we have a AI note taker that is SEC approved, blah, blah, blah. I actually go in and I track how much I've spoken and how much she's spoken. And if I'm going over 50%, then I'm doing a really crap job. So that's the other thing that we do too. And it just helps us make sure that we're listening, we're hearing. And then the email follow-up to her, it actually says, I heard you say blah, 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 very, very, very clearly. Is there anything that we missed or maybe misunderstood? And wow, it is mind-blowingly powerful because most of the time she says, you absolutely heard everything. Thank you so much. And then hopefully they become a client. But, and FYI, I'm not talking about a Savvy Ladies client. Like we're not working with clients or Savvy Ladies afterwards. But that's typically how I would work with someone who has not really dealt with the finances. And FYI, it doesn't matter if that client has $100 million or that client is $200,000 in credit card debt with no assets. It's the same process that you would want to use. That the dollars don't matter. I mean, they do for opportunity, but like they don't matter as far as what that process is.
Can I jump in? One of the things that's really interesting as you're talking, we have a pro bono case at our firm, and it's what's striking to me about this case is Husband took care of everything, wife is taking care of it. He's now in a nursing home, basically draining all their assets. There is no good solution. Like, it is not we put a bow on this. And I think what's fascinating, we talk about this confidence piece, becomes this question of why are the clients coming to us? So I look at this pro bono case that we're working on. She's not coming to us for some grand answer. There is no answer. Like, that is like every option is bad for them. And what's so, I mean, obviously we're optimizing, but we're giving her that space that they were talking about in the first session, that space to think through all the things. Like, we've seen her massive confidence gap because she's been able to articulate it, to be able to have a space, to be able to do all of these things. But going back to this idea of confidence and kind of my angle, this advisors, I think we put pressure on ourselves to fix the problem when that's not our job. This idea that we don't have to come in with the solutions is actually incredibly freeing. It requires a lot of humility, right? Like, I don't have the answers, but that to me is part of what makes a great advisor. But that also goes hand in hand with like, okay, I can have confidence because my value isn't in coming with a perfect solution, because sometimes there is no perfect or good solution. And we also don't know everything. Like, this is the other piece. We're always working with incomplete information. Like, we have another kind of thing at our firm. They're personal friends of mine. So I was like, I can't be your planner, but like, come into my firm. You're going to work with them. It's like, my team is struggling with this because they're like, we don't know how this works. Like, they don't have a solution for them. The client does. And I know them personally. And so like, they're talking about all these like really creative solutions that aren't even on the planner's radars. And so like, hold that lightly of like that we hold all the answers.
Yeah, that's really amazing. That's real insight to me that I didn't even know that part of it is that listening and having them figure out the solution. So
because you're teaching them to trust themselves.
Yeah.
Like they have the answers. They have the information. Like they can be trusted to make the decisions.
So Hannah, when you work with, and maybe you could talk a little bit more about the externship and other programs, but when you work with these really new advisors, how do you teach them to do that? What are the
oh man, there's a lot. I think one of the things that I think we do so well in the externship is that we show that there's not one way to do it. And I think we come in, again, I had this pressure of like, oh, I have to do it this way. And if it doesn't fit this way or this box, then I'm doing it wrong. And so I think what we bring in so many different experts who do it so differently. And it really just opens up this world of being like, okay, but what's the commonality between all of this? And it's the people who listen, the people who are guiding their clients. It's understanding who's in front of you, right? Like, if you're working with somebody with $100 million versus somebody who has tons of credit card, like, they're going to have a different perspective. Like, can you connect with the person that's in front of you? And so I think, to me, like, that's one of the things is really seeing the variety that's out there. I think it's very freeing for people of being like, oh, I can just get to know my people. I can know how I do this. And so I think that's one of the big pieces.
Yeah, maybe it's confidence in your own personal way to pass that along.
It's a lot of building your own confidence, a lot of like how we ask questions, how we think about this. We really want to be developing. I mean, some of this is critical thinking because it's scary to go into, like, one of the things that we're finding, like, it's scary to walk into a meeting because if we all been in a client meeting, like, clients are going to say stuff that we don't expect them to say. And like, that can be like, if it's off my agenda, what do I do? Like, right. And so that's high critical thinking skills. Like, are you able to think around this in a lot of different ways? And so it's really kind of like, so anyway, those are some of our, how do you teach that? And like, that's where you really get to play with different scenarios and really creative fun stuff that we get to do.
And I love that idea of showing all different kinds of personalities and skills. I want to definitely open it up. We probably have about 10 more minutes or so. Do you guys have questions you want to ask our panelists?
I have a question. So Hannah, when you don't have the solution for the client, like the people do you say to them that I really don't have the solution, or are you trying to find the best solution that they can live with? In other words, there might not be the perfect solution, which is the words that you used, but there's some place that they can get to that may be better than where they are. yet within the framework that you have to deal with, right?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot that goes into it. So I think we're gonna have, like, we don't have the solution, but most people don't have all the information too, right? So I think there's the information gathering piece is a big deal, right? Like, okay, let's go, like, do you actually know what those options are? Like, why don't we go research that? Like, that can be an easy next step. So I think that's bringing some clarity. I also think that sometimes, especially in situations that are hard, changes are gonna have to be made, right? Like big life changes. That's not happening in a meeting with me. Like, that's happening in between the meetings. That's like sitting in there. Like, I often think of, like, what we do as financial planners is we give the context and information to make decisions that they didn't have before. So, like, we're giving them that context. We're giving them space to explore, right? Like, because oftentimes when we're looking at, like, how clients actually, like, how any adult actually changes and makes decisions, like, you're gonna bounce around. Like, you're gonna be like, oh, what about this? Or what about this? You're just trying something on and seeing if it fits. So I think for a lot of clients, I might not know, but I can create the boundaries. I can give them the information. And then when, again, this is a keep meeting with them, or even if it's just one time, like, they're gonna be more equipped. Like, we're bringing our financial expertise, but they're bringing that expertise on their life. So I'm not sure if that fully answers.
Somewhat. I mean, I guess the question is, you're not just sending them out with this, there's going to be some follow-up and some guidance is the point.
Yeah, so it could be like, it could be just like next steps, right? It could be as simple as, and like that for some people is really powerful.
And enough, I gather, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that you don't always have, you don't have to have all of the solutions. So my mom took the extra chip. I don't know why, but it's very sweet. And this woman, Brandy Baxter, did coaching sessions. And so my mom did this coaching session, and I don't know if we're recording. There were some really tough financial questions that she had, like, to the point of, like, this is like probably beyond marriage counseling, probably divorce lawyer questions, right? Like that's like the level of like questions. So Brady's on this call with my mom, and Brady's a friend of mine. My mom, so I'm hearing it from my mom, and I went back and talked to Brandy. Brandy's like, I honest to God have no idea what she should do. Like, this is like hot mess express. I mean, she didn't say that, but like, I mean, I know the situation. I'm the daughter. I can say that. Brandy, talking to her afterwards, she was like, so my mom, what happened with her? She didn't have an answer. She left that meeting. She went to bed. She woke up the next morning. And she's like, oh my God, I know what I need to do next.
Okay.
And so I think we underestimate the individual, how they can actually come to these themselves. Brandy was like, I had no idea. I did this coaching. I didn't know what was next. And I had no idea what a solution was going to be for her. And being okay with that. And again, these are extreme situations.
Now, Jayita, is there any that?
Thank you.
That is great. I love that. The Jayita, is there anything when you think of the helpline work? I just want to bring it back to the other volunteers, or if other people here want to share that, because that's just one call, right? So then, how do you move them to that next step in one phone call?
Most of the time, I mean, it's could be a one call or could be a couple more calls, right? So it's not one call all the time. And as I think in the previous one, you were saying it, right? That there are people who really you like and you want to go ahead and help more, right? Or they really connected with you and it's not one call. Or there could be people who just needed the answer to their question. And just did not want any other discussion. Or there was this one lady who was going through a very bad divorce. There was a restraining order on her, and she just needed help. She didn't know where to start. So I just helped her in one meeting. I just helped her to figure out based on her financial documents. Actually, it was 2 meetings. Based on her financial documents, just helped her figure out a balance sheet. So it's very hard to say one meeting is enough. It's not sometimes. Sometimes they would email me more. I have gotten emails from clients I've helped before asking me other questions. And sometimes I would say to them, just go back and ask in the Savvy Lady helpline and let me know, and I'll try to make sure that I'm the one taking that answer. So So yes, it's really hard to say that it's one call or it's like 2 meetings. It's really hard.
Is there anything, Stacy, you'd add for the volunteers, like in terms of creating
Yeah.
confidence in the helpline situation?
So I think that the challenge, I work with people who call and we, spend an hour together and I can't solve everything in that hour, but I am I'm very focused as far as like steps. Somehow my mind works that way of like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this. And often they need another expert. And so, introducing them to maybe that expert. And I'll give you an example. I spoke to a fellow financial advisor who reached out to me. Her parents are divorcing, and she's not a certified divorce financial analyst. And he needs to keep his assets low because he needs to qualify for Medicaid. And she has the assets. And so I was able to give them some really good advice, but it is well over my head about Medicaid eligibility in New York State. And so I was able to give them some great resources of where to go, and so appreciative, so appreciative. So I couldn't answer all her questions. I could answer a whole lot because she's like, well, could she just leave him destitute? And I'm like, well, a judge does have to sign off on this and is going to look at this. And so that could be an issue. So you need this person and you need this person. And that was so comforting to her. And again, what's important to know, this is a very qualified financial advisor that reached out to me on behalf of her parents. Like, it's okay for us not to know all this information. But that's
resources. That's good.
Tracy?
So just to follow up with what Stacy had mentioned, one of the goals
In the front, so then the Zoom people.
as long as I don't fall flat on my face. So one of the goals of the helpline, to follow up with what Stacy was saying, is to give the women the tools that they need to succeed. So it's okay not to have the answer, and it's okay, but pointing them in the right direction is one of the things that I talk about when I do train the volunteers, because it may be that they actually need an attorney. And we don't give legal advice, but it's okay to point them in that direction. So it is okay not to have the answers and pointing them in the right direction. And we do have a resource page available for you with that information. So just wanted to.
Yeah, so checking out that resource page, or, hope you don't mind, but reaching out to Tracy too. Right. Do we have a situation? I mean, because we also have partnerships with other organizations that give low cost, free help within legal and some other areas. So if you don't see that on the resource, or you don't know of anything, you can also reach out to us as well. So
yeah. Oh, go ahead. I guess you first, and then.
I wanted to add a piece of advice. So I have a master's in social work. And one thing I learned from doing my social work internships is that the ability to sit in discomfort with somebody is a muscle. And you have to build that muscle. And one thing that helps me is a centering practice before I go into a situation that I know is going to be like that, and kind of a centering, let it go, thinking good thoughts for that person, but also trying to let it go from myself because I don't want to carry that around. So
and the centering practices before
and after.
If
you have time.
Since after, right?
I used to visit kids in jail, and I would just say a little prayer for them when I left jail. That's just a personal thing. I'm not proselytizing or anything like that with kids, but it's heavy.
Volunteers have to do that, working with clients too. Oh wait, I promised Sharon will be next.
I'm gonna move this, if you don't mind, just so that our online are here.
I just wanted to go back to the beginning where we were discussing women who've never participated in the marriage and financial decisions, and suddenly they're widowed. Because I realized I've had 3 in the last 4 years. And if one could break down for them simply what their options were, the 2 who were willing to sort of confront where they were moved to a very good place. The one who had never known and doesn't want to know, she just wants somebody else to take over what her husband was doing. So yeah, I just couldn't, I did what I could. But the other two were, sort of reassuring that one could get them to a good place.
Yeah, there are some people that are not ready. Some people that are very angry too, and understandable.
So this is in regards to what was being discussed earlier. I was really struck by what you said with all your experience and still not feeling qualified. And someone mentioned, I think it was you, Stacey, about giving ourselves grace, because as women, we are taught to remain in subservience to, and that means we need more. I was even on the train the other day and there was this ad and it said you could be doing more if. And so there's constant, they were like, if you use this program, you could be doing more. Right now, you could be. And so there's so much external things of us not being enough. And it does serve the patriarchy for us to not stand in our power. So I just wanted to say that in regards to getting the credentials and not believing, is just like, give yourself grace, because that is something that's also purposeful for us. Yeah.
Okay, we can take one more question, but we're gonna wrap up soon.
Wasn't actually a question. I
Or
just also
comment.
wanted, that was amazing. Thank you for that. And let's talk afterward about making sure you can use your 10 years on Wall Street in a way to help toward the CFP experience so that you don't have to.
And she's looking for a job, so I'm throwing that out there. Very, very lucky to work with her as an advisor, so.
Yeah, and I just, before we end, we do this at Barron's conferences. There's always a lightning round of just one actionable idea that you guys can take away. And one I wanted to share is that we have a newsletter at Barron's. It's totally free, and I can give Judy the link. It's called Barron's Advisor Women's Edition. It's a newsletter just for women in the industry, and it's got tons of inspirational quotes like we've heard here, as well as like women moving up. And I put it together, always looking for, including women getting promoted, changing firms, the idea is really to build confidence by seeing all the great things that women are doing in wealth and asset management. So that's my one idea. Anna, do you have one?
One takeaway on how to build,
Or just like a quick action, it could be a book or a movie or taking your externship.
that, yes, if you're new to the space. I think one of the things that's helped me, and I know this is not to get, I don't think it's woo, notice within yourself what's happening. Like, if I'm getting anxious about something, why am I getting anxious? Like really use, I've really kind of dove into this idea of like the somatic aspects of what we do. And that, by paying attention, that has been such a guide for me on knowing, oh, why am I feeling this angst? Oh, because they crossed a boundary.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Like listening to yourself. I know that's a little bit woo, not as tangible, but that's been really powerful for me lately.
It's absolutely neuroscience.
Yeah. So I shouldn't say woo woo. It's scientific. Yeah.
Has anyone read the books by Amy Cuddy? So she has if you go on TED Talk, it's one of the most listened to TED Talks, I think, in history. I read her book from start to finish, and it's all about self-confidence as a woman. And her history is that she had a very significant brain injury that left her feeling like an imposter as well. And she now is one of the top speakers. She's a Harvard professor. That really resonated with me. And so before I go, I spoke in front of 900 people at the Museum of Natural History for Savvy Ladies last week. And unfortunately, because the lights were so bright, I could not see my paper for my speech. So, yeah, no one knew that. And
Husband was there, by the way. He said you were amazing.
oh, thank you. So what I did is I did my Superwoman pose. Like I did and so I learned all that from the thing. And I will say I went on, I killed it. I did great. No one had a clue. It was the book that I continue to read over and over again because we all have self-confidence issues. And even if you see someone who looks like they have it all put together, they do not. And so Amy Cuddy's books, please do, and go on TED Talk as well.
Is there a specific book or there are books?
I'm forgetting what
spell her last name.
C-U-D-D-Y. I just,
yeah. And I'm not remembering. I apologize. But yeah, just look up any of her work.
One actionable item that I take from here is I don't have a solution for everything. My daughter always reminds me that. So she calls me with a problem. I'm immediately in that mom mode trying to find a solution right away. And she told me one day, she's like, Mom, I don't call you to find a solution. I just call you so you listen. I need you to listen. So she taught me I'm still working on that's an actionable thing.
I think we're done. Thank you so much. Savvy Ladies has been reporting this data, and we have been asking all the women who come to the Savvy Ladies Helpline, and let me tell you now it's over 8,000 women that have submitted questions to the helpline since we launched it as an app in 2023, of March 2023. And we're seeing over 200 coming in now over each month. So the numbers continue to increase, and the women continue to report that they have financial anxiety. So I wanted to dive into what does that really mean? Financial anxiety, stress, well-being, their mindset. This is what women are concerned about. They're asking us their question. And then when we ask them, how do you feel after having met with your volunteer, getting someone to listen to you, offer choices. That was my big takeaway, Amy, is choices. We, as volunteers and as Savvy Ladies, we pride ourselves on giving the clients choices. And we heard that said, giving them choices so they can maybe think about it and make the right choice for them. And maybe they need to sit on it and come back, as Hannah said, a day later or 30 days later. But they're now given some clarity of what their choices could be. And the volunteer can help understand that if you take this choice, this is what the steps you need to do, or this choice, or what are the 5 choices. So this conversation is the intersection of financial stress and stress in your body. And what does that mean? So I'm really excited to have called, again, a big power of the ass cold call to stress.org. Did you know there was that organization? Did anyone know there was an organization? Well, you start Googling and you find it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we need to connect. And we need to bring these 2 parallel silos together, finance and stress, and understand this intersection of what it means with our bodies. And so really excited to bring on this panel. I'm going to join it as well to share some of the data from Savvy Ladies. But Ruchi, please join us. She is part of our executive director team as a board member of Savvy Ladies. Moderate. Michelle McKinnon is a volunteer. Also, she was a speaker at our Impact Breakfast. And Angela, who is from the stress.org, who was my phone call that set all of this in motion because she accepted the phone call. There was some connection here. So thank you. I'm going to have a seat. Grab my water.
Good. Okay. Shall we jump in? Okay, amazing. I'm going to just first, I think Judy obviously introduced me as an executive board member. I'm so thankful to be. First of all, that conversation, y'all, was incredible, right? Money is so much more than the dollars in the bank. We talked about the trusting ourselves and the anxiety and the grounding. There's so much that comes into it. So this conversation is sort of full circle. So I'm Ruchi Penniger. In addition to being involved in Savvy Ladies, I have a company called Watch Her Prosper, where we are working with women around their finances in the numbers, practical, tactical, the bookkeeping, providing financial guidance, mostly to entrepreneurs. And all of it is through a lens of money mindset and neuroscience, which is some of what we've spoken about. And I love speaking and keynotes and moderating panels. So I was thrilled when Judy invited me. And what I want to do is just pass it over to Michelle just to do a quick intro of herself, and then Angela, and you already know Judy. So go ahead, Michelle.
Great. Michelle McKinnon. I'm a wealth advisor at Kluman and Associates. I've been an advisor for almost 2 decades. It's wild. I absolutely love what I do. I could not imagine doing anything else but this. Specifically at Klingman, we are an independent advisory firm. We very much are comprehensive, so we work with clients through their financial planning, investment management, charitable giving, legacy planning, tax, estate. I have expertise with business owners, pre and post exit, corporate executives, and I love working with women, right? Why are we all here in this room? I often say women in transition, and it doesn't necessarily have to be negative, right? Of course, I work with a lot of divorced, widowed, but maybe a woman that just took an awesome, powerful job, or maybe a woman who's now becoming kind of the financial breadwinner in her life. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and worked with Savvy Ladies for almost 10 years now.
My name is Angela Fertitta Briley. I'm the executive director for the American Institute of Stress at stress.org. So make sure you check it out. I've been, in this role for probably 4.5 years. The previous 27, I was at Nordstrom and held a variety of roles. My last stint was as a store manager of like 3 different stores. So very high stress. And in that company, we were told to make the environment stress free. So I'm very excited to be here and talk a little bit more about stress and what it is, because I think a lot of us have a misconception of it.
All right, so let's jump in, and I want to start with Judy. So Judy, from a Helpline perspective, what are you seeing at scale? Like, what are the most common themes or patterns in financial anxiety as you serve?
So one, women are finding us and they are searching online. So they're looking to answer their question and they're finding Savvy Ladies. For that reason, I think we're putting some trust out there to start with. So they're being motivated, they have a question. Many of the questions are now proactive questions, but we still ask them on the way in. After you submit your question, like, how are you feeling right now? What is your financial anxiety? And over 50% are claiming a high level of financial anxiety. And then another like 6 to 8% have no idea what to do. So if you take that combination, it's almost 60% of the women coming with a question. So they're motivated to put in their question. 60% are highly anxious. So this is a concern. And when the women are coming into us, we're giving them plans, we're giving them choices, but our data, our KPI is moving the needle from this high level of financial anxiety. And I'll throw stress in there, and I want to learn the difference. And that's what I think is sort of the next step in our evolution of understanding that difference and scaling it, is moving them to a place of financial confidence. And when we do ask the women after their session, when a volunteer listened to them, gave them choices, offered clarity, they give a testimonial in many cases, they are more confident in just having been heard.
I love that. And if that many are reporting stress, you know that there's so many more that probably don't even realize that they're operating in a state of stress, just probably across the board, fight or flight. So it has to be more.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Angela, so you're a pro in stress. We know that.
I'm a pro in stress, right? Yeah, yeah. So hands, palms are sweating right now.
Personal PhD in stress. How's that? So talk to us about what's happening in the body when we experience stress, and at what point is stress manageable, and when does it become too much?
So stress is basically any outside or internal influence on the body. So it's physical, it's mental, and it's emotional. And so just like you just said, it's fight or flight. It's your built-in alarm system in your body. And so when it becomes unmanageable is when that elevated sense in your body does not come down. You don't get a reset. You don't get to calm. So that's going to lead to headaches, tension in your shoulders, the back of your neck. Some people get the little pin prickles. That's what I know when I'm at a really high place. Jaw, yeah, you hold all of that tension. There's actually 4 different types of stress. So there's eustress, which is the really good stress. So that's the stress that maybe some of the speakers up here today had preparing for this. And then there's distress. That's that bad stress, that it's that flip in the stomach and I don't feel good and I'm going to get sick. That's that bad stress. When that bad stress stays prolonged and turns into chronic stress, which is that long, prolonged, that's when it's going to add up in your body to become heart disease, hypertension, cancer, just any underlying cause of those diseases. And then you have to learn how to manage it, which somebody earlier, I don't know if I wrote down their name, you got to build that muscle. People want a magic pill when they call me. They're like, what's the pill? I just want to be stress-free. You can't. It's like if you want to get a great booty, you got to do some squats and you got to do them every day. So great example.
Very good example. Thank you for the reminder. Don't tell anyone I'm doing my squats. So Michelle, on a daily basis, you're meeting with clients. So can you talk to us about those direct conversations? How does financial anxiety show up in a real interaction? And what are you hearing? What are you noticing right away?
Yeah, I mean, I'm noticing lots of things, but I gave it a thought, and I would say I see this with our Savvy Ladies clients, and I see it with my clients that may have 20 million, 50 million, 5 million, right, with significant wealth. I often see 2 types. The first type, and I bet we all probably can agree with this, is the one that asks a lot of questions. Very chatty, wants to know, question, wants to tell their story, right? Again, nothing back with that, but we could say that's in one category. And the other category, which I do see probably more often than not, is the quiet, the pulled back, right? If I'm meeting with a husband and a wife, right, the wife might not have a lot of questions, or the wife might not be engaged, right? And I think somebody on the last panel says she loves doing Zoom. I totally agree, right? I wish maybe one day we can all meet in person if that's available, but meeting clients in person is so key, because with that spouse that's not engaged, I try my hardest to either look at them, ask them a question, acknowledge them. Maybe from a previous conversation, they said, I always ask, what is a traumatic period in your life? Or tell me something about, the exact question was, tell me what money was like growing up, right? And so you get a wide range. Like you get the oh my gosh, my, grandmother was, went broke, or, abusive relationship. You get the wide range. And so maybe I heard something from that conversation. And so I'll try to tie in just to bring her in. So I'd say it falls in those 2 camps, and for Savvy Ladies clients as well.
I love that. It's funny, I think all of us can relate. If you're not, some of you are financial therapists, and I'm not officially a therapist, but a lot of our clients at Watch for Prosper say, I'm their financial therapist. Today I need therapy.
I get that too.
Right. I think all of us probably can relate, because there is so much emotion. And I think I love what you shared, Michelle. I see the same thing when I am working with, I usually have a business owner who's the woman of the couple, or the business owner of the couple. And, we may bring in her partner or spouse, and there's a lot of quiet. So sometimes just the inquiry and the curiosity of what do you think about what she shared or what he shared? And it's so interesting, because a lot of times you're actually the one that's mediating their communication. They had never had that conversation until you were there to ask that question in front of the other. And now you've opened up this whole beautiful ripple effect for them as a couple. Imagine the impact that you're all making on a daily basis just from that alone. So Angela, let's get back to the ongoing stress. So help us understand the connection between ongoing stress, physical health, and from your lens, what's happening when stress stays elevated, especially for women? And I think also you, in our prep call, you talked about the difference between stress and anxiety. And I'll be honest, I don't remember if that's another question, but I feel like we need to talk about that, because
stress and anxiety, they're 2 different things. Stress, you're dead if you don't have stress. You have stress. It's just what it is.
You're hungry.
Exactly. Anxiety is a disease. So prolonged stress turns into anxiety. And that's when anxiety, you just stop, you lock up, like you can't make a decision, which hearing everybody talk and the questions, a lot of your clients do that. Like they call you and they just, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And you were saying, Sharon, you were saying that you had that woman that called and she couldn't do it. She didn't want to do it. She didn't do anything. To me, that's some high anxiety with her because she couldn't make the move forward. There was so much fear in her. I brought a lot of notes because there's so much to talk about and I didn't want to go all over the place. But talking about like physical health, we just talked about that. So cortisol, cortisol is a hot word right now, but that is the stress hormone. And stress is meant, like the way we were made, stress was meant for the saber-toothed tiger to come after you and it would elevate and then you'd come back down. We stay like a saber-toothed tiger is coming out. So our saber-toothed tiger can be, I don't know, credit card debt, an email that pops up. How many of y'all have been, it's 8:00 at night and your boss emails you and you're like, oh, that's the saber-toothed tiger coming at you. So when we don't come down from that, like we just said, it's your heart rate elevates, blood pressure. You can't fall asleep. You stay awake. You get sick. It takes longer. Your immunity system's down. It takes longer for you to recover. Stomach pain, appetite changes. You might eat more. You might eat less. My husband's psychologist, he said, tell him death. I was like, okay.
There's fear.
Yeah, but it's important for women. So women process stress in the emotional part of their brain. So I know as a woman, when my husband told me that, I was like, you're crazy. Like, I don't want to talk about that. I'm emotional, but we do. Stacey spoke about everything a woman goes through. So we have work, we caregive, we support our spouses, we have financial stress, we have the children, we balance all the schedules in the home usually we make sure the home's taken care of, we feel where the meal's coming from. So when we're processing all of that in the emotional part of the brain, that tells us we have to do it all right now and we have to do it perfectly. And then that causes that prolonged stress and then gives to all those symptoms that hurt our health over time. And I think that's all I've got for that.
No, I so resonate. I so resonate with that. My daughter was sick today. Jessica knows. She's a coworker, and my husband and I were tag teaming, and he came home at 2:00 late. And I was like, okay, this is what you're gonna do for dinner, and this is what the other one's gonna do for dinner, and here's the schedule, right? And it's
all the time.
It's all the time.
Yeah. Someone was saying about their daughter calling them. Where is she?
Snacks.
Snacks. That's a big one. Was it Regina? Like Jayita, right? Jayita, did I say that correctly? Is she still here? But she talks about like her daughter calling and she went into like mom mode, she's trying to fix the problem. That's the other thing that women put on ourselves. We go right into that problem solving mode and it just keeps that stress elevated. And we have to learn how to manage that. And like I said, it's a practice. And then I'll plug stress.org. Go to that because we have a ton of resources. I think I gave you all my card. Call me if you're looking for specific information, actionable items, that kind of thing. We can talk too.
I think we can all learn a little from that. When you said that whole list, I was like, oh, I feel, and I think all of us deserve the support we need. I mean, I know this about our clients, but all of us as volunteers need to be taking care of ourselves. Like, what are we all doing to take some of that off our plate? How are we sharing those responsibilities? Are we able to, if we're lucky enough to have the resources to hire people to help us with cooking or cleaning or, we deserve to receive the support, just like our clients deserve to receive the support. So just a reminder for all of us.
I mean, someone said about being y'all are therapists. I had no idea. I'm going to tell you, financial stuff terrifies me. When you ask what word you think, I'm like stress. So that's a huge thing. And Jessica spoke about how you can't take it on. You got to be there with them. You got to be there in the moment. You got to listen to them. But then you got to be able to walk away from it And that's a very, very hard thing to do. But I had no idea, and I don't know why I didn't think about that, but how your therapist, how you're knowing the most intimate and vulnerable parts of their life, from being raised as children and how that was discussed within the home, to losing a spouse and then having to go into this space that they're not comfortable in.
That's why AI is never gonna replace it, I'm saying, truly.
Yeah. The personal connection is so important. And I also think that, you know, at Savvy Ladies, we want more women to come to the helpline. We want more women to come and use the free resources. Like, I talk about this all the time. And I think in my head, I've been connecting most recently, like financial health. We talk about financial health, money mindset is women's health. And I think if a woman can be motivated by her health and know that affects her financial mindset, she would be more motivated to get choices and understanding and build her financial knowledge. So that's my hope with sort of joining these two parallels and actually making the connection.
And Angela, you have to tell your husband this. 61% of women would rather talk about their own death, like dying, not death, than money, than finances. And here's why, right? All that we're talking about. Yeah.
We'll lead right into I have comments.
I want you to give your comments. First, I just want to ask Judy about more of our Savvy Ladies data. Some people say data, I say data. Okay, what does it, data, gala. Okay, can you share with us about the data and, you know, how financial anxiety impacts our behaviors, such as avoidance, delays, lack of confidence?
Last summer, we took a survey of the women. So this was an interesting survey because it was the women who've already come to the helpline. So I initially gave you the stat of how highly anxious they were, like over 60% highly anxious, not comfortable with talking about money. Those were the women coming in. So this was a survey we put out to the thousands of women and asking them what is their comfort level talking about money. So these are women who already put in a question to the helpline. That is the trigger. That's the key here. They were actually 70% more comfortable to talk about money because they were a helpline client. So what that is telling me and all of us that are like looking at the data is it is the power of asking a question, coming to someone, the helpline, and getting connected and having someone listen. We talked about active listening today. Active listening is a skill. It's a really important skill because you can show it in your voice if you're on the phone. You can nod when you're talking to them in person or on Zoom. Like, you want that person, you can make eye contact. You want that person to be heard. They need to be heard. And that is helping them build their confidence because the takeaway is you're giving them choices and clarification of that question when they come to the helpline. So I think that to me is the biggest aha stat of the survey. But initially, why don't they talk about money? It's shame, it's fear. They don't want to be judged. And also they don't want to talk about their money. They don't want to talk about they're making less than other people. They're actually, there's shame in talking about their salaries.
Yeah, beautiful. Self-judgment, I find to be such a big one. People avoid it because they're already judging themselves. And when we set up a space for them, for us to share with them, this is here for you. There's no judgment. Know that I'm here to support you however you can. Isn't that like such a cool way to start that conversation as well?
Let's trust.
Yeah, exactly. Michelle, I know you had some thoughts on the stat. And so share with us anything you want to share on that. Also for you, how do you see financial anxiety showing up in the conversations, and where do you find that clients kind of get stuck?
Yeah, I feel like we all agree whenever, not all the time, but usually a client, Savvy Ladies and my own client will come up and say, I don't understand this. I don't get it. This is not my like forte. Fair, right? right? I'm not a doctor. And I try to level set, right? And I do this with my own clients and with Savvy Ladies clients that a lot of people don't know. You know, even my top clients that are doctors and lawyers and sold businesses for a ton of money have come to me and say they don't know. But I try to flip it a little bit, and you got to be sensitive because particularly with our Savvy Ladies clients, a lot of these clients don't have time to do research. They don't have time to be educated. You know, they don't. You know, oftentimes the clients I work with might have more time, but instead of it being a crutch, if they don't understand, I try to make sure that they feel more empowered to find the answers. You know, I was talking at the Savvy Ladies breakfast a few weeks ago that, you know, it almost feels like we didn't get the manual in high school or the manual in college of like financial literacy. And why did men get the manual? Like, I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago, and my husband was like, "Oh yeah, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "What? Like, how did you know this random piece of fact? Like, did I just miss that day in school that they were handing out financial literacy manuals?" No. You know, I think men tend to hopefully feel more educated because they are more educated. I actually don't know if that's true. Like, you would hope that they've actually done research. I don't know if they've actually done research. But I think to make them feel empowered to do the research to become educated. Don't let that be the crutch of like, I don't know, right?
I love that. So the signals that tell you a client's overwhelmed or under stress, you sort of talked about the I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I always say is like a fear flavor. Like if somebody's really scared, I don't know, it's like we call it blank brain, you know, I don't know how to do this. And it's like, it's an avoidance tactic because they're feeling unsafe.
The confidence gap, which I know we've been talking about all day.
Yeah. Are there any other tips that you could share with our volunteers that they could do with clients to help them feel more grounded, less overwhelmed, anything more that you
and I'm going to say this again, and I think we've all said it, is like, let them tell their story. You know, so many of the women that we work with, and I would say this with my own clients and with Savvy Ladies clients, is nobody listens. And maybe people listen, but like not really just 30 minutes listen, unless you have a therapist, which everybody needs a therapist if they can afford it. It's really nice to just have somebody listen and no judgment. And so often the first thing that I do on a call is, tell me a little bit about your story. You know, tell me why you came here. Tell me about their situation, right? I can read the notes, but just let them have the space, because that oftentimes, you know, let them have the space, level set that nobody knows or not a lot of people know, right? That's why I have a career, just like a doctor, right? Well, some of us try to look online on what our health diagnosis should be. We shouldn't, right? But I would say listen and level set.
I love that. And the awareness you said earlier about the earliest memory of money.
Yes,
how they grew up
such a
with
powerful
money.
question.
It is so powerful. Over 95% of how we show up on a daily basis is our subconscious beliefs. So we're carrying with us from the time we're in the womb till we're 7, 8 years old. We're watching all the stories. How did our parents behave around money? Were they fighting? And now money's bad. You know, I have a client, I'll call her Mary, and she was a little girl, went to the mall with her parents. They went looking for a mattress. She went to the arcade, my favorite place, and her parents came to get her after they were done shopping. And they said, "Okay, Mary, honey, it's time to go home." She leans down to get her bag, and it's there, but it's empty. So Mary, right there, doesn't trust herself with money. Her money was stolen, you know, and now that's what she's carrying with her into her 40s. She's a business owner who's undercharging as a result because she doesn't trust herself with it, and spending it all because she doesn't trust herself to hold it. Imagine what the impact is on her marriage, on her finances. It's the subconscious. So this is where we go a lot of times. So I think it's really important to understand where they're coming from. And, you know, if we have the time and if we feel safe enough to trust ourselves to have the conversation. One of you talked about, Hannah talked about, I loved what you said, you know, we want them to trust themselves because they know the answer and we're their guide. But we also need to trust ourselves that we know how to manage it. We may not know every answer, but we know how to manage the conversation and guide them the right way. Yeah, that's really important. And then we have the amazing tools from Savvy Ladies and Tracy as our resource. So Angela, what should volunteers listen for in terms of tone, language, pacing that signals stress in the body? And are there some simple techniques that our volunteers can guide someone through during a conversation to help them with that?
I mean, y'all have talked about so many of these, and I don't think that you know that you're stress experts already. But you'll hear their voices. You've heard it all. You talked about, I can't. They're catastrophizing. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's impossible. Just the slight tone in their voice, it gets a little bit higher. It gets more cut. Maybe they get real quiet, or maybe they overshare so much. So you've all heard it, I'm sure, in every client, whether it's Savvy Ladies or in your own firms. Just pacing, pauses, maybe they talk really, 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 really fast, or maybe they don't say anything at all. So it's those drastic differences in the way that they are coming at you. Things that you can do: slow your pace. Just get a little bit softer with your voice, slow it down. I mean, even me just doing this kind of just sets the mood, right? And then listen. I think that's the big takeaway out of here today. It's listen. Every single person that's come up here has said, just listen to them. And then who was it that said breaking it down? Jada, again, she spoke about breaking it down to just one thing, especially I think if you get that person that's just rapid firing. Okay, we're going to cut it down, and you're going to do, these are the 3 things I want you to do before. And that's going to help them cut their stress level, because it's not impossible. You've told them 3 things they need to do, and other resources that Savvy Ladies provides you to be able to give that to forward them on. And that just, it takes down that stress. Then when you talk to them, it's like, I did it. Like they feel like they've won something. So
I love that. And a lot of times it's the listening, and also the way we can build trust with our clients is actually reflecting back to them what we heard. And we have to be really careful that we've reflected back kind of exactly how they said it, because we will lose trust if we don't. But the great way to build trust is the reflection back. So they're like, and you're like, thank you so much for sharing. So what I heard was, and then you repeat it, and then they feel like, oh, she hears me. And there's like, there's a trust that's just ingrained right there. Judy, so from a strategy perspective, how does Savvy Ladies design the Helpline experience so we can reduce anxiety and also build confidence?
Interesting, because I think we always wanted to put the power in the client. We wanted the client to feel very comfortable coming to the helpline. And one of the first things, Tracy and I work hand in hand, and she has really leveled up our sales force and how we integrate operationally, because I think you have to have a really smooth process from a client service perspective. So connecting with the client and asking her how she wants to connect with her volunteer was really important. So that was a pivot, and that was a change we made early on, but it was an intentional change, because initially we said, we're going to connect you with, and we're doing this. And when we shifted it to say, how would you like to be connected? How would you like to speak to your client? Would you like a phone call, a Zoom, and then offering email as well as a way to build trust before they actually meet? We saw that our connection and our conversion increased. So it was, again, we started to listen to the clients, and we do that with surveys. We test and learn, and some things fail, but you have to listen to what they want as a client. And that's what we hope to continue to do with your experiences sharing with us. I think all the tweaks you've been seeing Tracy make is that she's listening to you as volunteers to help make the experience that much easier.
Yeah, amazing. So Michelle, let's just we're going to come to a close soon. What's one small practical step that you help clients take that creates immediate momentum?
One action item, one. Particularly not necessarily with my clients, but with Savvy Ladies clients. Like, oftentimes we're working with clients that have many children, many jobs, dealing with a lot, right? One action item, whether that is they have a lot of credit card debt and I might send them to like the credit counseling nonprofit that's going to help them consolidate their debt and get a lower debt. Whether it's, we get a lot of budgeting questions. And I say this to my non-savvy ladies clients and savvy ladies clients, like, don't spend so much time going over a budget. Just look at actually what you spend, right? And go from there, because we can find some type of a dopamine hit, talking about cortisol and dopamine, about making a budget. But if you don't follow the budget, what's the point, right?
Spending calculator.
Yes, it's better lifestyle calculator, right? So I would just say, particularly for our savvy ladies clients, one action item. It can be, a few things within that, but like one action item, one direction, one next step.
I love that. And that's a reminder for all of us. We're not here to, we can't solve every problem they have in 1 hour. I know we all have hearts like gold. That's why we're here, but we have to allow ourselves the grace, somebody said, right, to know that we're here to support them as best we can with the time that we have, and then give them the right resources, which we have so many, which is incredible. So let's do one final question to everyone. So it's like a little bit of a speed round. So let's just start with Michelle, since you're here to my left. What's one thing every volunteer should remember when supporting a woman experiencing financial anxiety or stress?
I've gone back and forth about it.
You have to, but
I get
be quick.
Be quick, and now I'm like frozen on the panel. I think what you're doing is incredible work, and listening. I think we've talked a lot about how we might not have all the answers. I think the women on our helpline value so much that they have somebody that will listen to their story. Beautiful.
And
I think you have to remember that their bodies are in survival mode. That's financial saber-tooth is just at them. And so you have to remember that and just be calm, listen to them. You said one action item, I said 3. That might be overwhelming to some. But just remember those. You're not there to solve it. You're there just to help guide them through it.
And I'm just so grateful that connecting this for all of you and all the volunteers between stress, financial anxiety, the money mindset, it's more than just, you said, a plan. It's a lifestyle. And if we can be there for our clients and tell more clients about us, that's really one big takeaway.
Do we share how people can stay in touch with us all, or they have our information?
To share
Yeah, we don't need to do that.
Share all that. We'll share everyone's contact information because we'll share it with everyone online as well.
All right, so first, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. This is, we're gonna share some real stories and talk about some experiences that we've all had, but let's just, Judy introduced me. I'm Tracy, you all know me, available anytime if you have questions. But Peter, can you start us off and introduce yourself?
I'm Peter Creedon. What do you need?
How many years have you been with Savvy Ladies?
Greater than 5, I think.
Yes, because you were there before me.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for making me feel older than I am. But I suppose the only thing that I would say is the reason I started doing some of the volunteer work with Savvy Ladies is I believe every professional has a responsibility to give back. There's too many people in the world that can't afford what a good planner, advisor, or whatever else is out there, and it's our responsibility to give back. And I do this and a couple other type of things. And I just believe it's a core belief. You either do it or you don't. And there's a lot of people out there that can't afford it, but have very good questions and that need help. And that's what we do is we, as volunteers, we step up and into those shoes and do it. I would love to go out and find $1 million clients all over the place. I carry 5 designations. And all my continuing education amounts to 60 to 70 hours a year. Just to keep those, a lot of experience. I could go out and charge a lot of money, but there's a ton of people that can't afford and just need it. And most of the problems aren't complex. All of them boil down to listen, sort, prioritize, and suggest.
All right, awesome. And Maggie.
Hi, everybody. It's great to see so many beautiful women here today. I'm Maggie Patrick. I'm a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. I've been in this business for about 14 years and a Savvy Ladies volunteer for a long time, like I think. Yeah.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
Hi, Christina Demarbal. I've been a Savvy Ladies volunteer for 2 or 3 years, becoming more engaged and active. I'm a wealth advisor at a fiduciary boutique firm. I'm fascinated by the psychology of money, behavioral finance. In this role, I feel like a social worker with a spreadsheet. I love people, I love puzzles, and it's the intersection of my finance IQ and credentials that I can leverage, but my personal EQ. So it's very, very rewarding. Both at the intersection of both my private practice, but also this volunteer work is focused on women experiencing life transitions. And when I initially volunteered at Savvy Ladies, I had a real comfort level around the topics of wealth management, investments, except that that's single digit percentage. And the top trending challenges are debt and divorce, 15%. So that motivated me to get my certified divorce CDFA financial analyst designation. So add to the alphabet soup.
Yeah, love that. Love that. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about how the women feel afterwards. So we do collect some feedback, but I'm going to start with Peter, and I'm actually going to read from my note card because it's a little bit longer of, put my glasses on, of what a client wrote about Peter. But I did.
Wait till you hear this. He is down that end of this.
Well, I did get a question. First, I initially read it and I thought, wow, this is just out of our scope. This is not anything we're going to be able to assist with. But reading the story, she came to us. I have to do something. Like, there's not a resource that I know of that I could send this person to. So she was facing medical debt, but her question was, she even included receiving improperly fitting medical devices, and she was going into detail, and I thought, well, I'm going to reach out to Peter. And Peter says, I'm happy to speak with her, but I don't know what I'm going to say. So fast forward to when I received an email from this client, and her exact words: without the generosity of Savvy Ladies and their introduction to Peter, my family and I would be in the tall weeds. Peter's good common sense seems to have rubbed off a little as I left our meeting with a felt sense of my right to be in the world. Best of all, it's lasted and continues to grow, revealing a level of embodiment I didn't even know is here. Yesterday, my issue, which had caused almost constant uncertainty for months, was resolved in my favor after a single discussion with someone who took advantage of my lack of savvy. Afterwards, having told my spouse and giving thanks, I realized the best part is the reliability of what Peter shared by example. Stand firm in the space shared by your senses and values. It will not fail you. So that's just proof of just listening. Just listening.
And that's, not to interrupt you, but that's something you got to take with when you talk to your clients. Is you got to put a little humor because you got to break that ice. It's intense sometimes, unless you don't like dry sense of humor, which. But you got to put your person in there. You are, you've got to break the ice and you've got to get to the heart of the discussion. I'm sorry.
No, that was it. Yeah, I was just talking about that, and you just gave her one-on-one advice of maybe it wasn't exactly financial or fit into this nice little box, but what he did was listen and talk to her, and that was the common theme here, and you can see how that can change someone's life.
Humor is also like one of the number one stress relievers. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I do it all the
And
time
you
to
do it all the
relieve
time.
my
It's
stress.
natural.
As a person who owns my own company, you don't go home until the day is done. And the day doesn't end at 5. But I think that one of the key things from your panel is that you have to be comfortable listening to people. The whole key, I'm a financial planner, registered investment advisor. I've had my own company for, I don't know, well over 12 years. I lost count. And yes, I've earned every scar I've gotten. But the thing is that what do we do as advisors? We advise, and you can't advise until you listen and figure out what the real underlying issue is. And in this case, it's interesting. First of all, I love talking to people in the Midwest. They are so nice. I mean, they're polite, they talk slowly. It's like, by 10 o'clock, I'm talking so fast in New York, it's like, okay, how many words can we really fit in a minute here? And then it's like, oh, it's so nice that you called versus the New York, what? But what you have to do is figure out what they're really talking about, which is difficult sometimes. And then what you have to do is take bites at a time of what it is. And I use a lot of dopey analogies, which Morgan Stanley would never approve of. That's why I went into my own business. But it's like, I use this analogy all the time. It's like 2 sharks meet over a whale. And I said pizza the other day, but the more experienced shark is out there, and the younger shark says, how are we going to eat this big whale? And the more experienced shark says, 1 bite at a time. And that's what you got to do. You just take one issue, one statement, one point at a time. Let them get it out, write it down, let the feedback happen. Because I have a very diversified background. I came out of hospitals, originally hospital administration. I've had my own business. I've worked for a bunch of people. Every person teaches me something. Every person I run into teaches me something. So yes, have I been through divorces? Personally, yes. But we go through all these things. Hopefully you don't go through that one. But it's, what do you want to do with this information, this collective knowledge that you have? How do you address it? How do you talk to people? I'm not the greatest person to express emotions. I was the guy they called when the place was burning down. That's what most of my life has been. But now I'm in a very different position. I'm the person that has to listen, has to solve, and be flexible enough to change. Do I know about someone wearing dentures or family dynamics? I never learned that. It's only since I've gotten into business. I grew up in a family. If you expressing emotion was a weakness. we don't cry. We don't do certain things. But anyway.
That's a good point too, because that's a lot of our clients coming from that perspective of talking about money was not something that they could do.
You said fear, and you said that there's a fear of people. My parents never, ever talked about money growing up. That was always something they talked about. And then the storm happened when my father passed away. My mother went into surgery once. My father was so embarrassed that he called my sister to come help him find the checkbook. There was a division of labor, but this is all part of our experience to get to where we are now. And helping people is being able to understand where that person is and being able to sit in their shoes for a little bit of time. And also to be patient enough to let the story come out.
Right. Thank you. And congratulations. That was amazing.
I'm happy. I'm surprised. I'm glad. But, I've run into these people, as you probably have. I'm sorry. I like telling stories. You should take my classes too. The thing is that we are storytellers. We're listeners. We're therapists. We're social workers. We're money managers. We just have to be flexible enough and deal with the situation. We jump in, not knowing what's gonna be.
Which are the tools that you need to be able to see the big picture?
Yeah.
To help them. So, yeah, so.
Knowledge is great, but you gotta share it. But, you know, I can be the stupidest person in the room too. That's not hard to do, but I mean, sitting next to this panel, and I'm intimidated. I know the strength of the person sitting on either side of me. They're a lot better in many things than I am. Doesn't mean I have to capitulate to it.
He usually does it. Right.
Never give in, never give up.
You didn't know we were gonna bring the humor to that today, right? Right.
And I'm just gonna start off by saying, don't adjust your glasses or your contacts. Yes, I really am a man. I like the odds though, and it's pretty good odds right now. But see, this is how we approach things. Everybody has a different style. Don't change your style. Don't change who you are. Just be yourself. And if you don't know, you say you don't know. If you can help, you help.
Yeah.
If you don't know where to go, know enough that, hey, if you got credit card debt, you go to this, you go to this, you go to, you know, some of the,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I believe a team approach.
That's
One
right.
person
It
can't.
takes a village. All right, so Chris,
Village, it is.
oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, Christina. So, based on the feedback that Christina's clients have given to us, with keeping in mind the majority of the clients that have spoken to Christina have identified as being anxious and, you know, having no idea what to do. And on the backside, when their comments come in after she has spoken with them, they're saying that they are taking a step. They are ready and they are taking that step. So what's your secret sauce there? What are your pointers that you would be able to give to volunteers to motivate them to actually take action?
So I think of myself as a social worker with a spreadsheet. And I've raised 3 kids and having the experience of helping one of my kids navigate panic attacks, I've developed an understanding of extreme anxiety. And so she got treatment, and there's a framework called the IDEA framework. So the first letter, I, is identify the emotion. So, and this worked. My son was crying and came to me with a situation, and I misunderstood. I said, oh, you know, you have a broken friendship, you miss your friend. And he was like, oh no, Mom, I'm terrified of him. So he's crying. So identify what the emotion is. Most it's fear. And what's a fear or trauma response? Fight, flight, like the tiger's running after you, freeze. And that's where they feel stuck. And I hear this with my own clients, my own practice, where there's a lot of shame around, why can't I get organized? I'm turning into an ostrich. So the first step is to just sit with, just identify the fear. And actually, Belle Burden wrote this best-selling book. It sold out on Amazon. It's a sensation. A memoir of her divorce. She had the benefit of intergenerational wealth, highly educated, and her story sparked a 10-part Wall Street Journal series recently. And she's interviewed in the Wall Street Journal, and she said, even her, she was equipped. She said, I was afraid of it, meaning taking ownership of her finances. So just understanding the fear is real. So idea, D, don't fix. So Oprah said, she wrote a book with Arthur Brooks, and she said, feel the feel, then take the wheel. So you got to sit, somebody said, in the discomfort, and be with them. And it's very lonely. So if I can just validate, so E is empathize, which means you basically say, yeah, this sucks, and humor is helpful to kind of but just not be afraid to sit in the dark with them and just affirm that, yeah, this is scary as hell, you know? So I think that's where the breakthrough is. There's another quote I love. Scott Peck wrote, what did he say? He said, mental health is the ongoing process of committing to reality at all costs. So sometimes reality is dark, but if you just accept it, and you're with somebody in their truth, then that just opens things up. And then IDEA is ask, what do you have some thoughts about what you might do about your situation? And I found many of them have a whole game plan, including in some cases escape from situations and relationships where they're not safe. So the first priority is safety. There's another Robert Frost quote that he said, the only way out is through. Got to go through it. Like there's no shortcuts. There's no, most of them have good solutions. I had a call yesterday with somebody who did not have a good solution. We talked back and forth on the phone, and then it was about the house. They were divorced 4 years ago. And I getting information from her, and she said, we had a conversation with the house, and I'm saying she lives in a community property state. They're both 50-50 owners, but he's the only one on the mortgage. So she had this whole kind of, I said, you're not on the mortgage. So the mortgage is like, anyway, I'm getting lost, but she had a horrible life, but somehow that shifted her mindset. And so I was like, sell the house, capital gains tax rate's 20%, it's not, anyway. So she was like, yes, like it just, so sometimes she was the one I got her unstuck from kind of,
Giving them the confidence.
and then the last one is IDEAS, share resources. So if one step or one thing, the financial well-being workbook is awesome. There's one page on values-based budgeting. So that's a resource. I use a couple of worksheets, one-pagers from the Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts. They have a getting organized, or just first step is your priorities. What are your priorities concerning property, et cetera? What are your spouse's priorities? So, so that's what it is. It's just sitting, validating that they are in a pickle, and then giving them the tools to implement whatever their own forward action plan is. So.
Right. So Maggie, you handle mostly divorce cases, and these women are facing huge life change. And so they bring their emotions to the table, which has kind of been a theme of what we've been talking about today. So what strategies do you use to deal with that situation? And do you have an example of a client that you would like to tell us about?
Sure. Well, I am a crier, so I almost always cry when I talk to people because the stories are really intense, and when they tell me these stories, like I feel it and the tears just come. And I would say that, one of the first things I do is I say, I'm sorry that you're going through this, but I'm glad that we're talking today. And so I try to pivot the conversation toward a solution, because I think, as some of you may already know, that like a lot of times people are just swirling around the drain. They're so focused on the problem that they cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so I think our job is to like redirect. And the conversations are emotional, but we have to redirect toward what is going to move you forward. What's the next step going to be? There has to be some positive step that comes out of the conversation. So it's a lot of redirection. and I can say, like, as a person who got divorced myself, I can't imagine what I sounded like on the phone with the people I was calling at the time. It's really hard to get out of that space. But like that, I think is a really helpful thing that we provide, is to say, like, okay, putting that aside, let's talk about where you're going to live. You know what I mean? Like, really get focused. And in terms of like I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people. I guess, one person, I don't know. I have so many stories, but one of my favorite stories is a mom from Westchester. Actually, Lisa knows this person, but this is not a person from the Helpline. Is that okay? I hope that's okay. But she totally, she was not happy in her marriage, and she was a Westchester mom, like a total stereotypical suburban mom. And she was really into, like, beauty and makeup and stuff. And she loved doing eyebrows. And like, she went to her eyebrow person where she got her eyebrows done and asked her to like teach her do eyebrows. And she decided to move to Boynton Beach, Florida, and become, an esthetician. Yeah, an esthetician, and do eyebrows. And that was so amazing to me. Even as like a grown-up person, I was like, you could just do that? Like, it blew my mind that you could be like, that's what I want to do. And was it the most practical thing that she could have done? No, it was not. But I totally supported her in this choice because it was so empowering for her to just be like, you know what I want to do? I want to just like talk to the ladies and do their eyebrows all day. And I was like, that's fantastic. You should go for it. I mean, she's actually selling real estate right now. And I have to say, she's killing it. She's killing it, which is amazing. She has amazing eyebrows. I couldn't wish to have her eyebrows. Yeah. Anyway, but that, I think that like talking to people who are sympathetic and who validate, what people are identifying as their problem, and then trying to direct them toward like, here's a path to go on. I mean, I really couldn't have picked this path for her, but like she already knew she wanted to do it. And I think it was really helpful for her to hear someone say, you should do that. You should totally leave Westchester County and like live your dream on the beach in Florida doing eyebrows. So there we go. You know what I'm talking.
So this question I really want to address because it really is at the heart of what we do. And I'll give you some data behind it. Our debt management questions. We all see them and we all kind of get a little nervous, stress comes in. We don't want to answer them, but they represent 30% of the women coming to us. And just doing a search by that, they're not only in debt management categories, they're all over. So it probably is higher than 30%. This year alone, we've received 325 cases of women coming to us from 41 different states. And the majority of them are in the age range of 25 to 34. They're making 25 to 50K a year. 61% of them being anxious and have no idea what to do. And this is something that we all can handle because it's about learning their expenses and what they're spending and what's coming in. But we also have the NFCC, the National Foundation for Credit Counselors.
That's the one I always send to.
Yes. Yeah. So we have a partnership with them, and so they can definitely help. But it's really important, and I think my number one question from a lot of volunteers is, why aren't we sending them there first? Why aren't you just sending them an email? And it's that personal touch, like all of you were saying, that we need to talk to them. And honestly, they may not be a good fit. It may be more of a mortgage thing that they can't help with. So in those cases with the NFCC, what messaging do you give to you probably all haven't handled a lot of them. I know, Peter, you have taken quite a few.
I think the first thing you gotta do is find out what the real issue is. What is it that I got $100,000 of credit card debt and I make $20,000 a year? And what I find is half the time what they say isn't the real issue. It's something else that they lead to is the real elephant in the room. So you gotta, if using your example there, I think if you use it like we're in the emergency room and we're the triage doctor, we got to figure out what's going on so we can get them to the right place if we can't handle it. And
Which is exactly why it's important for us to speak to them, so.
I doubt you knew what this woman was going through and where she would go until you kind of found out. Or, that. But I remember way back when dinosaurs roamed the face of the earth on a college course of psychology, and you dealt with Maslow, right? What's the base of that pyramid? Food, shelter, the two biggest things. That's where a lot of these questions stem from. I don't know what to do. I'm going to lose the house or I'm going to get the house. Can I afford the house? Does the debt impact this? And you see the spider web go out. You just have to find out where the spider is and what the real web is.
Wonderful. All right, so just to change this up on you all in the last minute, Amy, who was hosting the third panel, I believe, really sparked an idea. And I know we all spoke to the call to action. What do we want to happen after this day and what we've talked about? And so she talked about the lightning round. And I think we can all do that and talk about Savvy Ladies anywhere and everywhere, because you never know if you're in front of somebody who, one, needs us, two, would love to volunteer for us, and three, might be able to financially support us. You never know who that person is. So everywhere and anywhere, just talk about Savvy Ladies. I do, it kind of gets embarrassing for everybody with me, but so from Amy's lightning round, your call to action, what action can you take this week to spread Savvy Ladies? Peter, or Maggie, go ahead. What action?
I know I can't go first. I have to think a second.
It's a good question.
No, I mean, I actually talk about Savvy Ladies a lot. And I do encourage people to check it out. And, I'm not sure what specific action I could think of like on the spot, but, but I think it's just an amazing service that we provide. And it's unique as far as I know. And I'm so proud to be a volunteer here. I think it's an outstanding organization.
All right, Christina, what can you do?
I'm just thinking of both the volunteer and the client side. So the first question I usually ask clients is, so how'd you hear about Savvy Ladies? Many, it's a Google search. Yeah. So telling them if you feel like I helped you get unstuck and you might be able to take a next step to move forward, tell a friend. But I'm also hearing like one of the people I spoke with yesterday heard about Savvy Ladies through podcasts, and Stacey Francis had so I said, oh, I'm going to see Stacey tomorrow, and so she was like, that's just amazing. Like, and in terms of creating like recruiting more volunteers, I think something like this, a summit, is really important. Hannah wrote on her blog, I'm also a fan, about this is a caring profession, and that there is a real thing with compassion fatigue, that there's a need for boundaries to create, to reset, because you're emotionally empathetic as well as cognitively empathetic. Like I'm the same. I feel their pain, and there've been some really gnarly experiences, and I need to just take a break. But the other thing is having peer-to-peer support is really great. So I don't know. STK cocktails or something like that. I should have invited my colleagues to,
All right, Peter, what are you gonna tell everybody?
I think from the volunteer standpoint, you're doing this because you feel that it's something that you're giving back. The one thing I gotta say is that, if anybody asks me, oh, can I be a client? I say no, because I consider that as a huge conflict. And as a compliance person, I don't like conflicts like that. But also, we do this because we feel that we can contribute something, and it gives a great deal of satisfaction when I can solve a problem or problems. And from the client's standpoint, it's just astounding how many people can use and need to be able to talk to someone. The conversation alone, I think, creates its own atmosphere of help. And they feel better just by being able to talk to someone. So if you're being a volunteer, be flexible enough, because you never know what's going to come out. I mean, I've got a very diversified background, and I can be talking about taxes or wealth management or debt or whatever it is. It's
Ventures.
Ventures. And I'm making sure my dentist has all of his kids go through college and Harvard, most of them, and probably graduate school with that. But to be a volunteer is a very satisfying, but it's also a very it's a very personal experience for everybody. But from the client standpoint, it's extraordinarily needed in this world and times. You think of, I gripe and Kate yells at me all the time, what do you care for what it costs? Just buy the damn chicken, right? But how many times do we go to the store and look at the prices? Or I filled up my tank. I used to give them an X number of dollars, and it's $4.25.
At least.
I'm running out of kidneys, folks. But the thing is that there are people who are very greatly, and it doesn't matter whether it's divorce, credit card, the spouse. The ones that get me is the abusive cases. That's where I have difficulties on that. But I look at what the issues are out there, and it needs people like us. It needs our experiences.
Thank you. I think a big round of applause. This was an amazing panel. I love hearing from all our volunteers. Really, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for everyone on Zoom.